I enjoy a good song about where ladies empower themselves through talking about sex.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
My neck, my back. Or what's another one?
The thing I like about aside from like, it's cool that she like talks about politics and stuff. But the thing about Cardi B that is not important that I really appreciate is that her super, super long fingernails make me really uncomfortable, but I think they're also very cool. So every time I see a Cardi B video, I'm like, man, those fingernails make me really uncomfortable. But
I don't know why, but as soon as you said that, I just immediately pictured hot dog fingers.
I mean, it's
a load of hot dog fingers.
Hot dog fingers is more similar. They're more
Get a load
similar.
of hot dog pussy.
Oh,
God, no. No.
God.
I hate it.
Oh
I hate
God.
it.
I'm going back to bed.
Sorry.
Anyway, it's very funny. The fingernails, like the hot dogs are long, the fingernails are long. That was what I was gonna say. I don't know. It's like if you put hot dogs at the end of your fingers.
Oh God.
Anyway, I have a lot of respect for Cardi B and Megan Thee
shit.
Stallion, and I'm glad that song pissed a lot of shitty dudes off.
Did you see that there was somebody who was counter protesting protesters at Planned Parenthood by just reading the lyrics?
That's great. What the funniest thing, my funniest experience of that song is I saw the video first because when it came out, everyone was talking about the video, and I was like, okay, I need to see the video to see exactly. I need to do research on how titillating this actually is, and the result is quite a bit. But I listened to on the video, the officially released video, it's all censored.
It's censored, yeah.
So I was listening to it and I was like, why are people so upset about the lyrics of this song? These are like really tame for a rap song.
Yeah.
And I didn't even understand what the WAP stood for a while because I just heard the censored version and I was like, what is the deal with this? And then I heard Ben Shapiro reading the lyrics and I was like, oh, I must have heard the censored one. Then I listened to the not censored one and I was like, oh my, this is very explicit.
You clutched your pearls.
I saw someone, another gaijin who lives in Tokyo. She was talking about how she's like, thanks Cardi B for making me have to explain what wet and gushy means, or swipe your nose like a credit card to my Japanese friends.
That's wonderfully uncomfortable.
We had to explain the I can't remember if it was Holiday Inn or what. It was like a Ludacris song. No, it was Fantasy. It was the Ludacris song Fantasy.
Okay, yeah.
To one of my closest friends, cousins, he's Chinese American, but was born and grew up in the US, but his cousins are from Taiwan. So they didn't understand a lot of the stuff in Fantasy that we had to explain it, and that was a very fun car ride because they were like, you could just say, like this?
I mean, you could just say he's just listing a bunch of places he wants to have sex,
more or less. But they wanted specifics because they were very inquisitive, so they really were trying to get it.
I mean, I want to get you in the Georgia Dome on the 50-yard line while the Dirty Birds kick for tree.
Yeah,
if you don't like in the club, we can do it in the DJ booth or in the back of the VIP.
Their thing was they wanted it to be explained why someone would want that. So we
go bots and robots, so they got to wait till the show stop.
I also maybe don't know what that means. I'd have to really
lick up your thigh, then call me the Pac-Man, tabletop, or just give me a lap dance. The rock to the park, to the point, to the flatlands. That man ain't Ludacris. Woo in the public bathroom.
Is that a Tony Hawk reference?
Woo in the
back
public
of the classroom.
Sims and Tony Hawk
in the
reference.
In the motherfucking can.
Ludacris is I almost said was. Ludacris is not. He is still with us. Ludacris is quite the poet.
Thank God.
Yes. All right.
All right. Let's do this.
Hello, and welcome to Gaming Fix, episode 138 on September 12th, 2020. I am your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite line from What's Your Fantasy, featuring Shauna by Ludacris. I am joined today by Alex.
No. I'm leaving that one.
Okay. Alex is not joining us.
No.
Also joining us, Pat.
I don't think that my partner has a huge appreciation for that song. I think she has appreciation for Ludacris as a person for the most part, because I think he has done some cool stuff from what I understand. But yeah.
Okay. And Allison.
Yeah, I don't know if I can contribute to this.
I'm going to put it out there. I enjoy the song Fantasy by Ludacris. I think it's an entertaining romp.
A romp.
Yeah.
One of the first episodes of Punch Up the Jam I listened to was about What's Your Fantasy by Ludacris. It was a good episode.
I haven't listened to it in a long time, so forgive me if I'm misremembering, but for the most part, what I liked about it is it's a song about very consensual sex acts that is
Way to romp.
where both parties have respect for one another. I like that the subject of the song, the woman that Ludacris is presumably speaking about, is portrayed by Shauna. So like there's a voice there. It's not just like a male artist just like talking about all the things he wants to do to a voiceless woman. So I don't know.
It's not even what he wants to do. It's not
exactly.
What he wants to do. It's what do you here?
What is your fantasy?
You know
exactly.
Stop me when I hit it.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
God.
So
don't stop me when I hit it, if you know what I mean.
We need to do another intro.
It's really you think so? I mean, I guess this wasn't my first plan, but we're going PG-13 today. Just slightly
what
more.
did you play, Andre?
What did I play? What did I play?
We can't waste time with another intro because the orange sky is encroaching here.
Oh, same.
Blood was spilled last night.
In more ways than one.
What?
Yeah.
You asked, Alex, so I shall bless you with the knowledge of what I have been playing.
Wonderful.
Do you want me to update you on a game I've been playing over the last 3 weeks, or should I hit you with the new stuff first?
Well, I mean, that makes sense. We started the saga. Now we can end it, right?
Yeah, we can end it. Tell me why. The third episode dropped, I don't know, sometime this week, and I played that today, and it was the conclusion of the story, which was, if you do not remember or don't know, Tell Me Why is by Don't Nod, the creators of Life is Strange and some other games before that. The big selling point that they were pushing for Tell Me Why is that one of the main characters is trans. And
was that a selling point, or was that just kind of a bullet?
That was heavily pushed in the marketing.
That was their marketing. Yeah.
Okay. They were saying this is like the first major game this is the first game with a trans main character.
That's why it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, because
that is very, very fundamentally not true.
Yeah, but that is what they said when that game was first revealed.
Sure. It's maybe one of the first games with this sort of prestige attached to it, or this notoriety.
Sure.
But definitely not the first. Not the first game that we've talked about or that it exists at all.
It wasn't like horrible the way they did it, I don't think, but it definitely seemed like the development side, based on all the stuff they talked about, seemed to care about that representation, whereas the marketing side was like, this is a bullet point,
and also like first time, and you're like,
that aside, I think so. One of the things I talked about was how this game takes place in, like, the first time 2 weeks ago when I talked about this game. This game takes place in rural Alaska, small town, and like the first episode has some transphobia, but a lot of it is basically from people running into this person 10 years later, not knowing that they were trans, really. And so there's a lot of like microaggressions, but Tyler, the trans man, asserts his gender repeatedly through these instances. And then basically from there on, like the second and third episode don't really deal with transphobia much at all, which I was saying feels a little disingenuous for like the space they're in, but that's not the story they wanted to tell.
Sure.
The story wasn't about dealing with transphobia in a small town, which I respect.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing where, especially like when it comes to representation, a lot of the things is, you don't want it to just be, hey, here's how they deal with people.
Yeah.
And it's important to get
shit.
It's important to get all types of stories, whether that's here's a trans person in a shitty situation. You can also have trans people in positive situations or situations where their transness doesn't actually have any bearing on what's happening, stuff like that.
Not to tangent it at all, but like I've been listening to a lot of friends at the table, and they had a short conversation talking about how like, hey, it's our story and our world. So if we want to say that like phobia and bigotry about people's gender just doesn't exist in our world, or exists to whatever extent, we get to tell that story and tell it however we want. So even though things are dark and dystopic in this world that we're in, everyone respects each other's gender and gender identity. So like you have that option as a storyteller. And I think it's great when people exercise it. And it sounds like they do it in an interesting way where they ground it a little bit without making the story all about that, as so many stories are.
It certainly plays into the story, but it becomes pretty like by the end of the second episode, you have a pretty good idea that transphobia didn't actually play into the events that, like, basically the events that kicked off the story.
Events, yeah.
So, that's nice to see that they don't have. There's no tragic end to the game. This is all kind of stuff that they touched on in the FAQ.
Right.
So, it's really a story about is like memory and relationships with our siblings and our parents, and the things left unsaid by parents who leave us too soon, and stuff like that. And I think it's good. It's good. Maybe not my it's not my favorite. It's a complicated game. There are so many aspects. Like, I can't truly speak to the representation of like,
of course,
transness in the game, not being a trans person myself. So it's hard to say like, oh, this is like a really great representation, but it's nice to see that they don't fall into some pitfalls and like have tragic ends, or like everything about this person is defined by their transness. They get to just be a person, and that's happens to be a part of who they are.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. I mean, in general, in representation, is to let them be a person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Weird.
And Tyler, like everyone, like Don't Nod does a good job of making characters and making people out of their characters.
Yes.
But this is a much slighter experience. Not much, but it's like 3/5 of like a Life is Strange. Yeah, but I don't think it necessarily.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't. But I don't think it suffers for that. Maybe it's a little bit stronger because of it.
But it feels kind of more streamlined.
Yes, it is. But it takes place over the course of like 3 days or something like that. So it's a brother and sister coming together 10 years after traumatizing events, trying to reconcile their memories that aren't perfect because, traumatic events, like a child's memory 10 years later, and dealing with a like small town who doesn't want to address what happened. People have secrets. and siblings who have secrets too that they don't want to like let out, but they're trying to uncover this mystery about their mother so they can like have some peace finally and come to terms with what happened.
How is it mechanically? Because obviously Life is Strange has all the I guess time travel-y kind of stuff, and this seems way more like, yes, we talked about it the first week. We talked about the game where you kind of have the twin connection that you can kind of
so you've got the voice. Yeah, you've got the voice, so you can Tyler and Allison can speak to each other in moments that are like scripted, but or you can be like so you'll be in the middle of a conversation with someone, and then you can like hit
Kelly Clarkson and Nick Jonas, right? Because
yeah. And then the guy from Maroon 5 is there.
Sorry,
Blake Shelton, Gwen Stefani, Christina Aguilera, Shakira. Who else? What other voice coaches can we? Anyway,
it suddenly becomes like a terrible voice game, like where it's just one of those like really terrible licensed games, but it's about the voice halfway through, and you're just like, wait, no, this is not what I signed up for.
Anyways,
okay. Well, there is the voice game campaign mode. So the voice game for PS3. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
anyway,
derail it that much?
Yeah. No. So mechanically, it's very similar to Life is Strange, where it's like an adventure game but in 3D space. So you're walking around, you're picking up notes and like little items. You're solving some minor puzzles. There's nothing too difficult. It's mostly just, you're having conversations. And then sometimes you have these memories, like very light supernatural touch, where you're seeing the memories manifest in the like 3D space, and you see them unfold, and like they're kind of made up of like little bits of light, kind of like bokeh effects from like a camera, like just little like fuzzy balls of light that are in the background of stuff. And sometimes you have to choose between whose memory you think is accurate, who you want to believe. Do you want to believe Tyler's memory of things, or do you want to believe Allison's memory of things? And that can have an impact on their like how in sync they are, and then that can have an effect on a conversation you have later on, where if they're not on the same page, then someone can have an outburst and like screw up the conversation.
It was really hard to not make an NSYNC joke there.
Oh, same.
I think Allison and Tyler would probably be just too young to be into NSYNC, and they had no TV at home. So,
whereas I'm an Allison who was extremely into NSYNC back in the day. So.
Oh yeah, me too. I loved NSYNC. But yeah. Anyways. So tell me why it's on Game Pass. All 3 episodes are out now, so you can experience the whole thing. I'd say like the last episode was like maybe 2.5-ish hours. So it's definitely like you could play it in a day, or you could play it like, 1 episode a day or something like that. It's not the most amazing game I've ever played. I think maybe Life is Strange 2 was maybe a little more impactful for me. Just because it was looking at like the current moment in like the US and what's going on just like up and down the West Coast, and general sentiment around like immigration. So that was like a whole, like it touched on a lot more stuff, where this was just a lot more of a human story about people and family. But yeah, check it out if you have Game Pass, which we'll probably talk about later in this episode. It's worth checking out.
Awesome.
I'll definitely check that out.
Also on Game Pass is the other game I've been playing this week. Ooh. And I've been waiting on this game since like May of last year, I think. Probably May, maybe June, when I went to Bit Summit. Yeah, that would have been May. Where I saw Star Renegades, and I've been talking about it ever since because, oh my God, I love the look of that game. and it's like a 2.5D roguelike JRPG.
I think that's a good way to describe it.
With aspects of like Darkest Dungeon and
Into the Breach.
Yeah,
that one
Into
is
the Breach.
Like, I would say, even if you don't like the idea of roguelike JRPG, if you do like Into the Breach, this is worth your time.
God, it sounds so good.
Yeah,
it's very good. It is a game that you really have to think about, like what you're doing. Like, there are parts where you can just be like, I'm just gonna like bust through this, like because like whatever I do here isn't like super important. But you are having, when you get into tougher fights, you are having to manage your abilities and really think about what you're doing as you go through. Because the way it's set up is you've got like each round is like a minute technically, and so
it's
at the top of the screen it's turn-based, but so the premise is each round takes place over a minute, but you're just managing. You can take as long as you want to plan out what you're doing. But so you've got a bar at the top, and you can see where all of your enemies are going to attack and who they're planning to attack and what they're going to do. So it's like Into the Breach in that way, where they give you lots of information.
Pretty much all of
what you're going to do. Yeah, they give you as much information as you can.
Yeah. There's some calculations I think it doesn't do. Like, it might not tell you like, oh, this enemy is going to poison you, therefore you're going to take extra damage here or whatever.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, it's like, oh, you got burned, but not how much. Yeah. But usually you can say like, oh, it's burned 2, so I'm going to take like 9 damage.
Yeah, you can
like that.
You can figure out everything yourself if you just stop and think about it.
Yeah, once you've been exposed to it. But yes. So and then it's kind of like Into the Breach in that way, and then also Final Fantasy X, where they give you the list of like all the like everyone in combat
initiative order.
Yes,
it's also a Trails in the Sky thing, and it's super cool whenever they do that.
Okay, cool. So then as you're going through and you're picking your abilities for combat with your party, most of your attacks will have some sort of delay attached to them, where when you hit an enemy with that attack, it will knock them down the initiative order or like the timeline. And if you get them all the way to the end and like knock them off, then they don't get to take a turn. So they're just like out that round. But there's a limited amount of times you can hit them in a round, or like for a while. Like if you hit them, so say it's got 4 times. If you hit them like 2 times, then you're good. You can hit them 2 more times after that, and then maybe knock them out again. Hit them all 4 times for the next round or 2, you won't be able to hit them again. You can hit them, but you won't be able to delay them anymore.
Yeah, there's like a limited number of times they can be pushed in the turn order. Yeah, it seems like sometimes it's per round and sometimes it's per fight. I don't know. It's hard to like track.
It depends on the enemy.
Yeah.
And it depends on the enemy and the fight and all that kind of stuff.
But I think you can see all that stuff if you inspect the enemy and look at all their traits. I want to say
there's so much information.
Yes, there is. It's also cool that you usually I don't even know if it's usually, but a lot of times to get that delay, you have to crit the enemy, which means you have to hit them before they act. So you have to like plan it out to be like, how do I make sure that this big delaying attack hits them? But then by programming that character to do a delaying attack, then your next character who has a much bigger crit, but has a slower attack, also gets to crit them, because now they've been pushed back in the turn order by your other character who acts before them. And they actually make it pretty easy to track too. So that's cool.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut out there for a second. So if I repeat anything you just said, I apologize. But yeah, so when you've got the timeline and you can knock someone back, and that's going to impact, if you say you just set up all your characters to attack, but you don't pay any attention, you could just like, if you say like, okay, everyone's going to attack the same character, then you're just going to have like, okay, the first person attacks, then they move back, and maybe suddenly your second character who was going to attack after that first character you attacked, suddenly they get to attack before them, and so it just like keeps knocking them down the row.
it cascades. You cascade crits, but sometimes you run into a situation where you're like, oh sweet, I pushed them into the next turn, but you didn't actually like do a lot of like damage.
Didn't do any meaningful damage. Yeah.
So then the next turn happens, and they're, because of the way that the pushing works, they still act very early in the round then, and and so it's not as simple as just like, oh, I got to do all the stuff that I have that pushes them into the next round, because you also need to make sure that you're like damaging them and sundering their armor and stuff like that, because it has a lot of those kinds of like shields, and they have armor, and they have health, and then they have their other traits and weaknesses,
shields, armor, health. There's like AoE attacks, light attacks, normal attack, heavy, flurry, ranged. There are attacks that can hit, you can target at any enemy. There are target, and there's like a frontline backline mechanic. I think there's just frontline and backline. I don't think there are multiple rows, like more than that. I think it's just the 2 rows. And so you start off with 3 characters,
which are all really cool.
But you start every run with 3 characters, and then as you go, as you unlock like not intel. There's intel, there's DNA, there's coins, there's another thing to unlock characters.
It's a roguelike, so there's the stuff that you carry over between sessions, and then there's the stuff that's unique to the session, and
so you can get more characters, but you're going to start every run with 3 characters, and then after you finish a planet, then you can get a 4th character, and then a 5th character, and a 6th character. I believe it's like it's like 3 planets and then like a space station. And then each of these characters has like their own set of skills. You've got like, you've got tank characters. I've got this one like that's basically Aegis, and her whole thing is charging shields, blocking damage, and then she can deflect back like 25% of damage onto the enemy that attacks her, but she can also defend her allies. So if they're like, oh, I'm going to shoot the guy in the back line, she'll be like, nope, I'm blocking, and then that ally will still take some damage, but she'll block some of it and she'll reflect some back. So you can just be like, I'm just going to have her on the front line, everyone's going to attack her, and I'm just going to shoot him from the back while she just holds up her shield.
When you describe it that way, it almost sounds like Monster Train in some ways too.
I have not played Monster Train, but maybe.
I think because the characters have more persistence than in Monster Train, it doesn't have the same kind of like setup feeling. But in terms of like frontline versus backline, there's definitely some similarities, I think, in terms of the way the battlefields are laid out. Sure. So I think there's like, let me put it this way. I think if you like Monster Train, you should try this game. I don't think they're necessarily mechanically similar, but I think they're both really good games that operate in a semi-similar space, given that they're both run-based and both have kind of tactical 2D combat.
It sounds like one of the big differentiators is the JRPG aspect. So like, is there a linear story that you're progressing through, just like with story beats, etc.?
So there is a story about like interdimensional like robots, and there's like the big bad is called Mother, and there's something in like the interdimensional travel that causes all the enemy robots to become increasingly stupid. So they all just like talk very like basically, and they'll say like something, they'll mess up turns of phrase and stuff like that. So that gives them some character. But like the story is basically these aliens are invading. We need to stop them. And if it goes bad in this dimension, you'll just go on to the next dimension and try and save them.
When I realized that was the like, hey, try again mechanic, which I guess it kind of is in Into the Breach also. I was like,
it's 100% the same.
Oh my God. So every time that I die, a whole reality just gets destroyed, basically. It was like, Jesus.
Well, Into the Breach time travel?
It's time travel, yeah.
So it's different, but it's
the implication in Into the Breach, though, is that it's still a timeline that exists. So you go back and you create another fork, but that timeline still happened where all the bad stuff is happening. Yeah, so that it was a little stressful. I almost narratively wish that it was you're like, oh no, we just pulled you back to the beginning of this thing to try again, rather than all those people died.
Because like there's a robot buddy with you. Yeah, there's a robot buddy with you, and if your character dies, they're not permanently dead. They just get like regurgitated and spat back out, like regenerated by the robot with 1 health.
Cool.
And they're like, I don't feel so good.
Yes.
What just happened to me?
They're also to not, I mean, I think we buried the lead a tiny bit in that one of the things, not the lead, but one of the things, this game has the Nemesis system in it.
Yes,
like
it does.
Straight up the same Nemesis system from the Mordor games, where there are named enemies on each planet, and they talk, like they have dialogue, and then when you defeat them, they'll like try to run away. I haven't been able to defeat one yet, actually. They've always gotten away from me so far. They'll try to run away, and if they retreat, they'll have things that change about their stats. If they defeat you, they'll have things that change about their stats.
They'll get promoted, they'll get stronger.
And you can like look at a screen that shows which of them are on the planet and stuff, and see their stats and stuff. So that's interesting. And it also has a whole relationship system.
Yes.
Where
every like night, so basically after like so many fights, it becomes night, and then you can kind of look around to places you've been for some extra like items, and then you can camp. And when you camp, you've got cards.
Yeah. You have the characters play the cards on each other or themselves, and then they get like relationship gain, and then the cards will give them status effects for the next day.
So you get like plus 30% shield for the next 2 combat encounters or something like that.
In a Fire Emblem-y kind of way, almost.
Yes, almost, not quite, but almost. And there, from what I read, there are characters you have, if you get their certain characters' relationship high enough with each other, they'll like fall in love, and then there's like characters that are that you unlock based on their relationships. I don't know if it's like they have children or what. But I read a thing that like there are a couple of character unlocks tied to relationship advancements between characters.
That's really interesting. Super
it's
cool.
not a super deep system, but it is there, and it's like it's interesting for sure. And they unlock like team up attacks that they can do together when they have high enough relationship.
So everything you're describing sounds extremely dense. How is it presented? Like, is it easy enough to grasp once? Like, do they tutorialize it pretty well, or is it just tough to get into?
Yeah, they tutorialize it well, but it is definitely a thing where if you're not taking the time to think about what you're doing, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yes.
Sure. But they walk you through, like, here's how you do, here's what all this means, here's how you go into the inspect menu and look at, and all that stuff is all spelled out very clearly. But it's just like my biggest issue is I won't think like, okay, if I do this, then this is going to mean this. And then, I already guarded with her, so now she can't attack, but no one's going to hit her now because I can break both these people. So it wants you to, you're playing 4-dimensional chess.
I only have a few criticisms of the game. I would say that the tutorial is not one of them. I think it's pretty good. You do have to like Andre is saying, like you have to remember every variable. I can't tell you the number of times I go like, oh fuck, that's right, when I do a thing and then it's messed up. The thing that I wish it had that I think it needs is there's no undo button for committing character attacks, which is pretty.
I think there is if you're using keyboard but not controller.
Oh, they don't tell you what it is then. I'll have to look into that.
Because I think I was able to Alex, I think I was able to undo when I was playing with keyboard, but then when I was using controller, it was not.
I gotta check, because an undo button would be huge, because there are some attacks that are like instant attacks and they just happen when you click the button, and those it's fine. I don't expect to be able to undo those. But when I set a character to attack in 15 seconds, I think it would be better if I could pull it back and go, oh, wait, no. But I'll have to look. Maybe there is an undo button. The other thing is there's a sort of, I had this problem with Into the Breach, and I can't place it. I'm hoping by playing more Star Renegades, I will be able to come up with the language. And I've run into this problem when I have worked on, there was a game design idea I was super hot on last year that I put a lot of time into. And then I kind of hit this point where I was having this feeling about this design too. And it's like, there's a lot of cool systems colliding, but there's something about the way that they all come together that makes it feel like it's not that it's a shallow game, but that it's like kind of a thinner experience than what I would hope for. And it's really hard to articulate because it's just a feeling of something like, like it almost sometimes feels like, because they give you all of that information, that to a certain extent it is like numbers clashing against each other in a way that is less satisfying than something like a Darkest Dungeon, where in combat there's some uncertainty. I don't think that's a really serious, like, objective criticism of the game, though, because I think for some people that is going to be way, way better than something like a Darkest Dungeon where there's uncertainty. And I don't know, again, how to really, it's not like a huge knock against the game because I'm really enjoying it, but there's just this like little feeling on the edge of my thinking about it where there's just like something about the way that it gives you all the numbers that makes me feel like, oh, could I recreate the mathematic experience of this game by putting a bunch of formulas in an Excel spreadsheet? And that like kind of sometimes makes the narrative elements of it feel like superfluous somehow. I don't know. It's, again, I'm having trouble articulating it, and I've been trying to think about this the whole time I've been playing it so I could speak to it more earnestly or more accurately. And I also don't think that it means that you shouldn't play the game. I think you really should. Even if you don't have Game Pass, I think it's worth spending the $25 or whatever it is, because it's really good. But it's just a weird feeling I've had about similar games in the past that is really hard to sort of shake and to figure out what I mean. I also think some of the writing is pretty hit or miss for me. When it's good, it's very good. But sometimes there's dialogue and I'm just like, what are you talking about?
there is like a lot of just kind of like, oh, okay, that's weird. But there's like little Simian Rex getting lost in the trash dimension is like just pretty good. Get sucked in the trash dimension. But
yes,
there are lots of jokes where it's just like, hey, okay.
They're not like offensive or anything. They're just not funny. Sometimes.
It's just, and part of that's because the interdimensional robots are made stupid by the traveling, but not all of it is because of that.
And even sometimes I think what it is like it dips into like Saturday morning cartoon kind of feel with the dialogue sometimes, but it doesn't commit all the way to that either. So sometimes I'm kind of like, there'll be a dialogue option that like, if this were maybe like a adult comic book or even an anime, they would have said this, but that's not really appropriate for a Saturday morning cartoon. So they said that kind of toned down version of the dialogue instead. There's only been a couple instances where I've noticed that, but when it's happened, it's been kind of like, that was sort of corny the way that was conveyed. But it's not
you can talk to.
Yeah, a lot of it is really good though. So I certainly don't mean to say that I think the writing is bad. Yeah. It's just when it doesn't hit for me, it's particularly jarring because I think most of it is pretty strong.
Yeah, it mostly works for me, but there are occasional things where I'm like, okay, and I think it does repeat itself a little too much. Because, at least early on, because between runs you get to go back to like your main base, and then you can see like the people you didn't take out hanging out and talking to each other. And if you've got like, sometimes it'll just be the same people hanging out, and you just be like, oh, I just heard the same dialogue that I heard last time and the time before that. But once I get more people, I assume that will change, or if I get their relationships up, that'll change.
Yeah.
But have to see.
I think there's just some of this stuff tonally is a little bit uneven too. Like when I first got back to the thing, and like the robot is named Justin but spelled JU5 and then like 7IN or something. And so like there's a pretty emotional opening sequence with the characters and their siblings and they're fighting and one of them dies and stuff. This is all very like first 20 minutes of the game, so no spoiler. And then from then on, it kind of like shifts tonally to being sort of like, oh, we're having fun skipping through these realities, which are burning to the ground behind us. And it's kind of goofy. So I think that's probably part of where it's a struggle for me a little bit tonally. It doesn't feel as, consistent at all times.
Sure.
But the systems are super good and the writing for the most part is pretty entertaining. So I highly recommend it.
I'm really into the art. And part of it is just the backgrounds are incredible. Like, holy shit. Some of these backgrounds are really amazing.
When I first saw it, I kind of poo-pooed it and was like, oh, another pixel art sci-fi roguelike. Great. But I didn't understand the depth, like the 2.5D in the background elements. And that's not to say that the character art isn't really good, to be clear. Like it's clear that a lot of care went into it. It was a personal taste thing where I'm getting a little tired of that art style. Not that I don't think it's valid and, impressive and that artists aren't doing good work there. But this game has that sort of unique extra element where it has those moving backgrounds that make it like really pop. Like the art is just really, really neat and is eye-catching in a way that I did not expect.
Yeah. I totally embarrassed myself playing this game in front of the lead artist at Bit Summit. I just like shat the bed playing the demo. Did not do well at all, but I'm really enjoying playing it, and I'm glad it's out now finally, and on Game Pass too. So I didn't even have to spend any extra money on it.
I think it's just on PC for now, though. I don't think it's out.
It is just on PC right now, but they will bring it to consoles and stuff. Yep. It's just a matter of resources.
It should run on everything to PC wise. It's not a particularly heavy game visually. So
y'all want to hear about the book I'm reading? I'm not super far in, but if not, we can move on. I can come back with a book.
What's the elevator pitch on this book?
Yeah, give us a 30 second rundown.
What if Kingdom Hearts was good?
Well,
I'm reading.
Good? Yeah, you inverted. It's like opposite day or something.
I'm reading the Stormlight Archive, the first book in the Stormlight Archive, which is by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know. Y'all know his name better than I do, apparently. It is a fantasy book, and there are people called shard bearers who have these things called shard blades, which are big ass swords that weigh basically nothing, and they summon them after, like, they basically concentrate for 10 heartbeats, and then they summon big ass swords, and they can cut through anything except maybe like steel or like other shard blades. And then there's like magic and shit, and it's cool as hell, and it's extremely my shit, and I'm ready to read more of this book.
That's cool.
And apparently it's planned to be a 10-part series, and only 3 are out right now, and like 4 and 5 are on the way, I guess.
I have this sounds like something I would like to read. I have like 4 books to read, and one of them is extremely dense. And I am not doing well at reading any of them. So
this book grabbed me like immediately, which books really have to do for me to like stick with them, especially long books like this. I started Cryptonomicon, Cryptonomicon. Is that the Neil Stephenson book?
Yes, that is a Neil Stephenson.
I started that like 5 times, and I own it, and I just cannot get past like the first 2
Neil
chapters.
Stephenson is extremely dense.
yeah but this is a big book, but and like, I mean, the first chapter, it ends, or like the foreword or the prologue or whatever is like, and then 4,000 years later, and then 5 years later, 8 months, like they're constantly time skipping at the beginning, but it's so compelling. and the action is written so well. Yeah. The action is written so well that it's easy to follow and like just picture in your mind the ridiculous stuff happening.
Even though like Sanderson is one of those authors that is able to bridge sort of the gap between literature and pulp fiction in a way that is like very makes reading it very entertaining, but it's also very high quality writing. Whereas like one of the books that I would like to get through is The Terror that I have sitting on my shelf, which is a extremely fascinating story about a like an Antarctic expeditionary force getting caught in the ice, and then there's a monster and people are getting like snatched and stuff, and it's very scary and really good, but it's also really, really dense, and it's really, really well written, but it is not particularly like approachable, or it doesn't have that pulp element where like stuff is just happening. Instead, it's like, we're going to take 2 pages to explain how cold it is. And like, I like that stuff, but it's also very hard to stay like turning pages, because it doesn't have that same kind of grabbing thing that I feel like Sanderson's good at.
Yeah, so I'm excited to read more. And when I say it's like Kingdom Hearts but good, it's like the action reminds me a lot. When they get to the action, it reminds me a lot of the Kingdom Hearts stuff, because like the shard blades are like keyblades, and that like they just kind of appear out of nowhere, and they're like magic swords. And you got like special people who wield them, or they're like lightsabers and Jedi and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Sanderson, I haven't read an entire book of his work, but it sounds like he always struck me as like R.A. Salvatore, but good. Whereas like Salvatore was good to me when I was in middle school, because I hadn't read, like I had read Lord of the Rings and that's it. So I was like, well, it's not as good as Lord of the Rings, but what is? And so I would read tons and tons of Salvatore books, but as an adult, I look at them and I'm like, wow, it's wild that he has written and sold so many books.
So basically, if you want Kingdom Hearts but good, or R.A. Salvatore but good.
Yeah, sure. Kingdom Hearts by R.A. Salvatore.
Oh, that would be bad. That would be very
R.A. Salvatore's Kingdom Hearts. Is that too long for a podcast title? He's I think Mistborn is like a trilogy by Sanderson that's finished, and I want to check that out once
that's the one I've read a tiny bit of. Yeah.
Does Kingdom Hearts have crystal shards or starless nights?
I don't think there's any crystals in Kingdom Hearts.
That's a Final Fantasy thing. I mean, it kind of by association has. I mean, like Final Fantasy's whole fucking deal is crystals.
Alex, you know all about crystals now. Yeah. So how about you tell us?
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
That's a segue.
That's pretty good. I was going to make a joke about Starless Nights, but yeah, no. Let's do it. Let's talk about Final Fantasy 14 let's give me a time limit. How long do you want to leave it? Because we've been talking about this game for weeks.
Well, you said like 30 seconds for me, and then I talked for like 5 minutes. So
let's say 10 seconds for you. So you talk for 2 minutes.
Yeah. I've continued, and as a surprise to no one, I have continued with Final Fantasy 14, though I've been spending a little bit less time with it because it was a busy week at work. So
I'll be honest with you. Actually, I am a little bit surprised at your continued persistence through Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, you've really stuck with it, especially after, saying not necessarily a big fan of MMOs or Final Fantasy. Yeah. And then also you've dealt with some of these wait times.
I will be interested to see where you're at once you have to start paying. Like the monthly subscription. You have to start paying for the monthly subscription. I thought it was
I got the starter edition on Steam.
Oh yeah, but you're not paying the subscription yet.
Not yet, but like I
did once you start doing that, I wonder what once you start paying the subscription fee, how long do you stick with it?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't think I'm gonna once I finish all the story content, I probably won't resubscribe because I'm not going to go back and do all the side stuff. I'm not going to level up a billion different jobs. Like that's just not something I'm interested in. And I think that's more what people do if they're going to resub. But
definitely,
so that's not.
It's a lifestyle game.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think the reason I've stuck with it is because it gives me some Mass Effect vibes, which I know that's probably a weird thing to compare it to, but like the core crew that you roll around with is compelling, and after every story mission Like you can kind of go up to them and they have different things to say, like much like when you're in the Normandy and you're going around and talking to everyone after core story parts.
Or Saints Row 4.
Or Saints Row 4. Yeah, you're talking to Shandy and Keith David and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was so close to wanting to play FF14 and now you're pushing me so fast and hard away from it.
See, now this is just pushing me
Saints
towards
Row 4.
it. Like see, like I was like, oh, I have no interest in, and you're like, oh, it's like Mass Effect, and I'm like, I'm literally wearing a Mass Effect hoodie right now, so
yeah, I like Mass Effect. Like it does have that Mass Effect 1 and 2 vibe, like not so much the Mass Effect 3 vibe. And like I'm not saying that's a core part of it. It's just that's kind of something that's helped propel me through it, along with the fact that the story is really good. Like I'm I don't know, 30 hours into Shadowbringers, or not Shadowbringers, sorry.
Heavensward, right?
Yeah. Into Heavensward, or maybe 40, I don't know. And that story.
What is time?
Yeah. The story is way different than Realm Reborn. And it very much evokes that image that I sent to y'all, which is, the like, what do y'all think about dragons?
Yeah.
Oh, church bad. And then just finishes with the church sucks because they won't let you fuck dragons. That's basically that's basically what Heavensward is all about.
That's what I've been saying my whole life.
But like, I'm not even exaggerating. It is about church bad, and it is about dragons being fucking cool.
Bringing it back to something we talked about before the podcast.
Oh no.
Microsoft sucks because they won't let you fuck the dragons.
Hey.
Yeah, the games with dragons won't come out just specifically because
they're like, we know what we know the fan art you're gonna draw. We're not putting these games out.
Let's talk about a little game called Divinity Dragon Commander, in which you are the product of dragon fucking, and that is why you can be a person or a dragon whenever you want to.
They learned their mistake.
That game fucking rips. And it's directly because of the dragon fucking being allowed. So that's all I'm saying. If they want to make a good next Final Fantasy expansion, I think we know what the subject matter
so
should be.
I think we're all saying, if you want to make a good game, let people fuck dragons.
Yes, that is explicitly the position that we are taking as a podcast.
That's the gaming
Scalebound. Maybe that's why Scalebound didn't come out, because they wouldn't put dragon fucking in it.
Yeah, could be.
Same with Crimson Dragon. I mean, they had the Kinect. They could have done you could have.
I don't know. We don't have to go down that road.
Kinect-based motion fucking.
I don't need to see it. I don't need to see it.
I do.
No, but you get to do it.
But
it's
no,
like POV. Yeah.
I will say Heavensward is really good. I don't want to dive too deep into it. We've talked about this game a lot recently, and I'm not even.
I do want to play it too. I know I say that, and it's a huge undertaking, and I have a ton of games on my plate, but I am sort of avoiding more than broad feels on each story because I do want to play it at some point.
Oh yeah, I'm explicitly not talking about spoilers because I think they're worth not spoiling. So, yeah, no, good game. Play it probably. I mean, you can even get. I think the free edition. You can even get into Heavensward at this point. So all this content I've been talking about, I'm not saying this is a sales pitch. The fact that you can get that for free is pretty nuts.
You can't play as the bunny lady or the cat people and get the deal, the later jobs and stuff, right?
Yeah, which whatever, that's fine. I've stuck with my job from the start.
I don't know. I will
still want to be a gunbreaker.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I will tell you the cat person. The cat dudes. There are cat ladies and there are cat dudes. The cat dudes that you get from the Shadowbringers, from buying Shadowbringers, are fucking rad. They're really fucking cool. I bought Shadowbringers knowing that I wouldn't get to it for months and months and months because I wanted to play as a cat person when I was briefly playing it earlier in this year. They're really fucking cool.
Maybe I will use my...
And you could...
I'm not going to. I was going to say, you can use... They give you a way to change the way you look after some major story moments. You can just re-roll how your character looks. But I'm pretty into how I'm pretty into how Brendan Fraser looks, so...
Me too, actually. Now that you mention it.
What's Brendan Fraser up to?
He's in Doom Patrol, which I need to watch. That's on HBO.
What? Okay.
Yeah, he's like the main character in Doom Patrol. Well, I shouldn't say that, it's an ensemble.
Damn, Brendan Fraser is thick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. I see,
well, now we have a title.
Fraser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy 14 plays Brendan Fraser. You should do it.
Thick.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I'm just saying, if you saw Brendan Fraser, you'd be like, "Damn."
Yeah, exactly.
Thick.
All right, I just wrote down the episode title there. Sorry for the delay.
Oh yeah. Well, what's
We've
your
had several
what's
episode titles lately.
Yeah, there's a lot of dragon
for this
fucking as
thick podcast, man? But wait till we get to that news section. That is thick. But you got another game here, a new game.
I do. It is one I had not really heard about anyone talking up until this past week, more or less. And it is an interesting thing. So first off, the name of it is A Monsters Expedition Through Puzzling Exhibitions. And
This sounds like just sounds like the working title of Bubsy 3D. Bubsy Goes to the James Turrell retrospective.
is Bubsy the monster?
Yeah, Bubsy is a monster,
Bubsy is always
and the
the
James
monster.
Turrell retrospective is a puzzling exhibition.
You know, you're not wrong on either account. So I saw Damon of Necrobarista development fame talking about this game and the developer, and I was not previously familiar with this developer's work. They've released 3 other smaller puzzle games before this, and well, this is, as you can probably expect, this is a puzzle game.
What?
But what, right? Puzzling exhibitions. Oh, but it kind of reminds me of a combination of other games. So for fun, I'm going to name these games and would love to get y'all's reactions, but you're not allowed to use words. So only or whatever.
Or the
Or like the fucking Tim Allen noise.
That's what I was trying to do.
Not that
I just
one.
can't do it.
I'll only accept that Tim Allen noise from now on.
Though with one of the games, please bear in mind, it's about the game, not the developer.
Well, I know what you're talking about, but okay.
So here, ready? Here we go. First, a short hike. Andre?
I didn't play it.
I didn't either. I just know that it's good and I need to play it.
Okay. Next, Baba Is You.
I mean, mood though.
Eternal Scream.
Donut County.
Yay.
And the last one. There's a lot of clips that I can take from this. Thank you.
You know what? We're missing a game that I can respond to, which is from one of the best YouTube videos of all time. Which, if you
What? Just from Ventrilo?
yes, from ventral harassment. Yes. My partner and I make
4
that
strings,
noise.
4 stem, leather belt.
Yeah, my partner and I reference that video multiple times per day without fail.
I
Yeah,
love that video. Okay,
It's
the last game.
the best
please.
ever.
And yeah, last game again, please. Only to the game, not the developer. And that is The Witness. All right.
No, you know what?
It's too difficult to separate those things.
It's not even just
I know.
that. It's also that The Witness, like, I don't like to use the word pretentious because I feel that usually when I find something pretentious, it's that it's a piece of art that I just don't have the experience for, you know, like I don't understand. But The Witness is so far up its own ass that I can't even, like, the puzzle parts are good. Yes.
That's thankfully the puzzle parts are the part of it that are relevant for this.
Yeah,
Yeah, I figured.
I also the puzzle parts of it are good, but I'm also there are quite a few puzzles in that, much like Bob Is You, where I am too dumb for the puzzles. So I'm like,
the thing about Baba Is You though is Baba is You is like, yeah, it's fucked, isn't it? Along with you, whereas as The Witness is like, you stupid dumbass, and it's just like, get fucked. Like,
it's like, yeah, I am, but you don't need to say it.
and everybody was like, the first time the environment was part of the puzzle in The Witness, and I just am like, It's
it was cool, but like also I'm like,
it can see daylight. It's so far up its own ass that it can see out the other end.
Well, regardless.
Anyway,
that's not the part I'm talking about.
Anyway,
and I think the puzzles of The Witness are maybe some of the best designed puzzles ever.
They're well designed.
The puzzles are good.
The way it feeds them to you and the way it teaches you without explicitly saying anything. So it's kind of like a Metroidvania, but the skills you're unlocking are in your brain.
That part of it is brilliant.
Right. Especially like early on where you walk past a puzzle and you're like, I don't know how I'll ever be able to solve that. Totally. And then you solve it later.
That is the aspect that is in this game.
That's very cool.
It is teaching you lessons along the way without explicitly telling you what it is. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty fucking awesome. Like there was a moment pretty early on, like within the first 20 minutes, where I realized you could do something and it ends up being a core mechanic. And I was like, oh shit. Yeah. And then that's when the late title card dropped and I was like, oh shit.
That's cool.
So like being able to say oh shit to a puzzle game like that is amazing. So the other ones.
That's a good feeling.
So A Short Hike, it is extremely cozy. Like it is very wholesome. It is very cozy. It is just like relaxing and wonderful to play. Baba Is You, it is kind of like mechanically in that you don't have any buttons. You basically just have your D-pad or it is also on Apple Arcade. So Allison.
Oh, cool.
With your Apple Arcade thing that you bought.
Oh, I should actually...
Yeah, this
that
sounds
I bought
like
and immediately regretted because I don't get the full game in it.
Regret it. You should play this.
Yeah, it sounds like a fantastic tablet game too.
Oh, totally.
I'm glad I didn't buy it. I mean, not that I don't want to.
No, I was seriously like looking at it on Steam, going,
And it's probably worth playing with a controller, I would say. I think it works with a touchscreen.
I don't have that.
Like a DualShock.
You could sync a DualShock to it.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how to do that, but I'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, it's not hard.
Yeah, I can help if you need.
Mechanically,
sounds good.
Mechanically, it's like Baba Is You in that you're moving on a grid. You don't have any buttons. Like, you have buttons to reset what you're working on, and like it actually has the ability to step back through puzzles, kind of like Baba Is You also had that, where you can go back 1 step, 2 step, 3, etc., all the way back to the start if you want, which is cool. And like you're just pushing stuff around. It doesn't have the you become rock or any of that stuff. It is much more straightforward than that. But yeah, it is very much like that in how you control it. And the last one, that Donut County, it's because the writing and the interstitial stuff that it does is very funny. Like my favorite part of Donut County was when you were looking at the objects that you had collected and it had like just little descriptions of each thing.
And then it played the music too.
Yeah. Upon reflection,
Anthem is the best part of that game.
Yeah, upon reflection, the only things I like about Donut County are the music and the writing.
Yeah, so like it has that too, and like that's something that I was really into, is because the conceit is that you are a monster and human society is gone. Like this is probably 4,000 or something like that.
I mean,
and
honestly,
already a world I want to live in.
Yeah, and like so this monster is going through basically a museum. They're looking at like everyday objects from humans and trying to glean what they were used for, kind of stuff. And the writing is just really smart. Like there's one where it's basically like it's got a cactus and it's like, please do not be tricked by the fuzzy looking leaves. This plant does not react well to hugs, kind of stuff. And it's like, it's really cute and charming. Like it has a zoetrope and it says the earliest known perfectly looping GIF format, which I thought was extremely funny. Like it has a beach deck chair, whatever you call those, with the title of Meteorological Optimism. And the quote is, "For sale, deck chair, never used." Like it's got so many great references and the writing is so funny and it's so fun to play. This game fucking rips. It's amazing. I love it.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I'll check it out.
Definitely going to have to check it out on Apple Arcade.
It gets hard, I will say. There's been some points where I've been like, oh God, I don't know what to do. And then I did it. Like I would sit down with a friend or whoever, like, or just walk away from it for like an hour and come back and be like, oh, this was dead simple. I'm just an idiot.
Oh man, that
if only that
feeling,
worked in Baba Is You.
I know. I would just step away and come back and be like, no, I'm still too dumb for this game.
Still an idiot.
So like it's really satisfying in that way, like because you finish these puzzles and you're like, yeah, that's awesome. Like it's the Portal thing where you see a puzzle, you're like, will this work? It does, and then you feel like a genius kind of.
Oh, I love that feeling. Okay, yeah, so I am like.
It's really good, and also you were talking about the music of Donut County. Music plays into this a lot. In that, like, it's the kind of thing where like every time you do your turn back kind of thing, it'll do like a cymbal for like a drum while it's playing over this kind of nice, awesome music, and it will be adding like layers as you're interacting with objects, and like you're going to these little islands, and there has to be like somewhere between 500 to 1,000 of these. Like it is massive. It's great. Yeah, I don't know. I can't sing the praises of it enough. I've only played like 3 hours. I don't know how long it is, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to finishing up the cast and going back and playing more of it.
That's cool.
So yeah, that was a Monsters Expedition through Puzzling Exhibitions on Apple Arcade, Steam, and itch.io. Totally worth playing.
Sweet. All right. Well, how about we hear about some more puzzling expeditions? And as far as the eye goes, does that make sense? Is that a segue?
It kind of is. There's, as far as the eye is sort of a puzzle.
You're going on expeditions, aren't you? You're on like a moving thing, a caravan, or like a.
I saw this and was really taken by the art style. I'm really into the like. I think I've talked about before that like a lot of the like wholesome game indie showcase stuff doesn't hit with me in the same way that it does for a lot of people. But if you take the like wholesome animal characters, but also there's this just like this
crunchy
added tinge
management
of like
sim.
No, this added tinge of like hope of not hopelessness, but like I don't know, sadness is the word. It's like things are not all bright and sunny, but they're like getting through it, that kind of thing. I really enjoy that sort of tone where it's like these are cute characters, but they're also there's kind of a journey like sense of sadness to it too.
Everyone's got scarves.
Actually, everyone does have scarves. Yeah, that's there's some similarities in the art style there.
I thought you were making a joke about everyone's got scars because.
No, scars.
But journey scars. I got it. Yeah.
So as far as the eye has like an interesting narrative concept, which is that there's this world where, and I don't know if it's explicitly supposed to be a reference to climate change, but there's this world where there's these creatures that live in it called Oku, and their whole cycle of life is they live at this place called the Eye. That's like this. There are big mountains around it. It's in the middle of almost like a volcano like thing, but there's not a volcano, and there's an oasis at the middle of it. And to gain knowledge and learn about the world and become like better people, they go out across this sort of somewhat hazardous environment and spread outwards, but they have to come back because there's every so often the water level rises and they'll be washed away if they don't make it back to the Eye. Alex, looks like you have something you want to share.
It's unrelated. Please continue.
Oh, is it because Brendan Fraser is thick? Were you thinking about Brendan Fraser being thick again? That's okay. It's that's always a fair thing to interrupt with. We have to pocket that for when Game of the Year is happening, and if a conversation gets heated, we can just point out that Brendan Fraser is thick for everyone to reset. Anyway, though, like it leads to like a mechanical cycle of like you are helping these Oku get back from their journeys out into the world to get back to the Eye before water levels rise and sweep them away.
So I wasn't super familiar with this game. Like I'd seen images of it going around, and that sounds like oddly similar to Spiritfarer.
Mm-hmm. I think I haven't played Spiritfarer yet. I intend to, actually pretty soon. I might jump into it this weekend. But I think there are some similarities, and there's certainly tonally, I think some similarities because the characters can die, and when they do, it is like crushing and sad, but it's also given a like, oh, their robes fall to the ground and they're called back to the Sai is what they call it. And the implication is like they'll be born again at the Eye and they'll get to start their journeys over. So it has like an interesting relationship to failure and death, in the same way that Spiritfarer does, even if it's not quite as explicit or as core a part of the game as it is in Spiritfarer. But the result of all this is it's a pretty chunky, crunchy management game where it has an almost FTL like map, which is true for a lot of these kinds of roguelike things, where you are starting at the edge and you're trying to get somewhere, and there's a bunch of points on the map in between that you have to make it through. But so far as I have played, which I have not finished all of the tutorial chapters because they're quite long and there are 5 of them, there isn't combat. It's not that kind of game. It's not a like strategic fighting game at all. It's what it is you have these hex-based maps and you open the larger overmap and you can, see like there'll be 2 routes you could go to get you closer to the Eye, and one will be a jungle and the other will be some plains.
Oh, that sounds FTL-y.
It is, yeah. And so if you go to the jungle, you know that there'll be like wood and fruit there. But if you go to a desert, would be a better example. If you go to the desert, you might be able to find rock, but you're not going to find a lot of food. So your characters constantly are consuming food as you take turns, because it is turn-based. So you have to make sure you're going to have enough food, but you also need to make sure you have other resources like metal, wool, and stone are the other resources, and wood. And it costs resources to move to the next node. So to a degree, you have to plan. You have to go like, okay, well, if I want to get to this node, I know I'm going to need 20 stone and 40 wool. In the space that I'm in, there is wool, but in the next space that is in between those two, there isn't wool. So I have to make sure that I harvest enough wool in this space that I'll have it when I get to that further space. Okay. And so, and then it becomes a balancing act of, I need to make sure that I have enough food for my characters to survive, because they consume a lot of food per turn. And there's also a turn limit in each. They call them halts. The game, one of the things I love about the game is it uses like interesting language to describe basic concepts, which I think can be really frustrating for some people, because like cognitively it can be frustrating to have to say like, okay, so when they say they mean nodes on the map, but they call them halts, but I like it because it's thematic to me. So like you only can spend 30 turns in each halt before the waters come and you lose. So it's a balancing act of all these systems. And then there are random events that can occur, which I think are influenced based on the reviews that I've been reading. People are pretty hit or miss on this game. Based on the reviews that I've been reading, a lot of the events are just random, which I don't think bothers me.
Can you die of dysentery?
So I think it's stuff like that for sure, where you have just random stuff that happens and, bad things happen to you and there's no way to really recover or plan for them, which can be frustrating, I'm sure. I haven't played a full game of it yet, where you start from the very edge and work your way in. So I can't speak to how frustrating that could be. I may come back next week after doing that and say, fuck this game. But it is an interesting puzzle, and there's a lot of little systems that I think take that basic management balancing act and make it really complex and interesting. Like, for example, the characters gain experience. So your character may start out gathering fruit, and then they will level up to a point where they now can specialize in gathering fruit. Like, they start off as a gatherer, and the gathering class is what they use to gather any of the resources. But then they hit a certain point, and now they can specialize into being a fruit gatherer. And so if you build them a gathering hut, then they can further get better at gathering fruit specifically as you go across the map. And you get to pick skill points on this big skill wheel that they gain experience in. But then you have interesting questions like, okay, well, I want to build them a gathering hut so that they can gather fruit more efficiently and get better at gathering fruit. I could build a gathering hut that stays on this map and that I leave behind when I leave for 100 wood. Or I could spend 20 metal, 20 stone, 20 wood, the different resources to build a mobile hut that I can actually take with me when I go to the next map.
Can you make one out of pizza?
That's no pizza yet that I've encountered.
So no Pizza Hut?
No Pizza Huts yet.
Sad.
Who knows? But then the question also, when you have your mobile hut, is your caravan has a certain amount of bag space, almost like a role-playing game, and the extra resources that you carry forward to the next halt take up space. The buildings that you build that are mobile take up space, so you have to manage that too. There's like a builder career specialization. One of the nodes on their skill tree is you can make buildings that take up less space in the caravan's inventory. So like there's a lot there. It's really crunchy and really, really complex in some ways, and then it's all built around a fairly simple efficiency and management problem, and it's very interesting. And then I think just like tonally, it is not really a like crushing game from what I have seen. It's hard, but it's not punishing, and it's not like, so far anyway, again, I haven't had a game where I've played for an hour and then lost it all because of a random event. If and when that happens, I may not feel this way. But so far, the music, for starters, is maybe the best music I've heard this year, aside from, I don't know, Necro Barista or something. The music is like incredible. And so I would say if you like video game music, you should at least listen to it a little bit. But beyond that, it's just got an overall tone of being very like pleasant and friendly, and even though it is complicated, it is pretty like, it doesn't want you to feel stressed out or have a bad time so far anyway.
That sounds oddly familiar with a Monsters Expedition.
Yeah. But again, like, and even the tutorials, like I was playing the third chapter of the tutorial and I lost twice before I finished it, because the tutorial seems like it's just guiding you down a path, but you actually have to play the game while you're playing it to make sure that you don't lose, which is a little confusing and not very well messaged. So it definitely is. I could see it being really frustrating for some people, but I like it. I think it's also fun that the way that the characters, the Oku, start out as these like generic kind of just like little like people. I don't know how to describe them. They're very simple, just like kind of spherical heads and then bodies with these like journey like robes on. But then when they go to become a gatherer, they change shape. They're all metamorphs and they change shape into red pandas, and red pandas are the gatherers. And then you can and like birds are the builders. So they metamorph into these different kinds of animals in order to perform the different tasks, which is, I think, pretty fun. It's kind of like a cool, like, oh, I got to level them up to gatherer because then they're going to become a, like, forget what they are, but like another cute animal. And the art style is really nice, so it all kind of looks very pleasant as you're leveling them up and doing all this stuff. So it's an interesting game. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something kind of chunkier and a little more challenging, and you're not playing Crusader Kings, which I also want to play a lot of. But it's interesting.
The art is really great, and then I see like all the management stuff, and I'm like, but the art.
If you don't like management games, I don't think it's for you. It has like, part of the thing that I like about it is that, like, and this sort of tells you tonally what the writing is like, there'll be chunks of writing that are like, at dawn of the fifth blink, the great meeting is closed with the circle ceremony. Every pupil must go to the summit of the great cliffs of the west. It is a hard task, but few do not undertake it. Those who do not join the Sai to guide their companions in future travels. It's like that kind of like lots of weird words and language to describe things, and kind of flowery writing, which I like. So yeah, so far I think it's pretty cool, but I may come back next week and say, fuck that game, don't buy it. It's a pain in the ass.
Well,
is it only
on sale now? Yeah, till September 18th.
What's that, Alex?
On Steam.
Only on PC?
as far as I know, I think it's coming to other platforms, but I don't think it's out on anything else yet. I assume that this will come out on Switch. I would guess, because it is definitely it seems like that kind of indie game that will release there. But I don't know.
Well,
I could be wrong. I will say quickly before we move on, I didn't put in the sheet either, but don't have to talk about it for long. I have also played a shitload of Avengers, and I still like that game, warts and all. And I have touched Crusader Kings and Wasteland 3 and want to play more of those. And also Spellbreak is pretty cool, despite having been lukewarm on it in the past. I'm playing a game or two of that per day because I'm enjoying that too. So there's far too many games.
There really are, aren't there?
Remember when we were like, there are just going to be no games this year. It's going to be real sparse.
I was like, I'm going to like be able to go through my backlog, and now you're like, every game that you guys brought up today, I'm like, I want to play this.
Yeah.
I had so much time, and now I have no time.
I very consciously only put As Far as the Eye on this list because I didn't want to go on a tangent for like a half an hour talking about 3 different games, because I could easily do that.
Oh, for sure. No, that makes sense.
I mean, I did that with 2 games, so yeah. Well, now back from a brief hiatus, our resident Billy Mitchell is here to talk about
all the
high scores that
Allison,
she got while she was gone.
If you had a hot sauce, would it have any weird special flavors?
That's a good question.
Like a mango hot sauce?
Ooh.
Possibly.
Give me like a raspberry. Like a raspberry habanero.
Raspberry hot sauce.
Raspberry
habanero. I don't know.
Allison looks baffled for listeners at home.
I like
okay, because I don't normally have like I'm trying to like more spicy food because I did not like it at all as a kid.
Sure.
But
give me a raspberry smoked habanero, or roasted habanero, raspberry roasted habanero hot sauce.
Okay, no, like I was thinking, like I was trying to think if like basil could work, but like
sure.
Yeah.
What's your spice component?
I don't fucking know.
So what have you been playing, Allison?
So, anyways,
hey, that was a direct segue into high score.
It was a good segue. I just want to. I was just gonna quickly like run down the things that I've been playing first, because I've just been playing like a lot of a variety of things. But since we've last chatted, I finished Persona 5 Royal, which was very good. I've been playing Yakuza 0, which is also very good. And then also put some time into Avengers. I think I might be the only person on the cast still playing Fall Guys. So I
plan to check in when the next season hits.
Yeah. I have it installed.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's just for me, it's a good if I get like frustrated with the game, I'm just like, I'm just going to sit and play a couple games and then get frustrated with Fall Guys and then go back to Avengers.
Apparently the hot shit that as a podcast we need to play is this Among Us thing. But anyway,
I've seen people playing it.
Yeah, it seems.
Anyways,
is that like there's like an alien and you have to like?
Yeah, it's like a party. Yeah,
there's like a Jackbox game in the new party pack that's like that.
Yes, this sounds better than that. Anyway, continue, Allison.
But one of the things that I watched actually a little bit ago, but wanted to make sure that I brought it up, was the documentary series High Score on Netflix, which came out kind of mid-August, I think, and is a 6-part documentary series about video games. So very appropriate for the podcast, I guess. But it's I'd say it's really I'd say it's definitely not like the completely comprehensive about video game history, but I'd say it's a worthwhile watch if you're interested in video game history, mostly because it does they do talk with a lot of really great people from both game dev and people who have been involved in the like more professional like game playing. Although it's usually it's the game. This series mostly covers games through like the like Nintendo 64, PlayStation era. So it mostly covers really retro stuff. If that's either a draw or an issue for you, but I think it does. I think that its really biggest strengths are that it doesn't pretend to be comprehensive and instead is just like, let's tell some interesting stories about game dev, about video games, talking to interesting people who have been working with games and also
what kind of
with people who they spend a pretty good amount of time talking to Roberta Williams.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, she's that's really cool. She's great, but like they spent like there's a decent amount of time spent talking to her. They spent
first episode, I think. I can't remember the game it was, but they interview a trans person. I can't remember.
Who's really into Space Invaders.
Space Invaders, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Space Invaders, and like them going to like the Mall of America or something, or no, it was like a mall in LA to like do regionals and then go to nationals, play nationals. Space Invaders.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I think is really great is that they talk to plenty of women, they talk to people of color, people who are LGBT. So they really, I think a lot of the perception of especially that kind of era of video games is that it's very male focused, but it shows with people like her, people like Roberta Williams, people. There's some other people involved that it's a lot more diverse than that, which I think is really rad. So it also talks to like the sound designer of Nintendo. They talked to Yoshitaka Amano, which is interesting. Yeah, so they have like a really good group of people that they talk to, and I think that a lot of I feel like a lot of times if you're watching things about that era of game dev, you can kind of run into a lot of the same tropes, I guess. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, there was the arcades, there was Pong, there was Atari, then there's the video game crash, then there's Nintendo, and like there is to an extent some of that, but I think that it covers enough interesting topics, like talking about the Sierra adventure games, talking about RPGs, talking about sports games and things like that. So that I think it does just, it does interesting enough stuff and talks to cool people that make it worthwhile to watch, even if you know that history backwards and forwards.
I seem to remember seeing that Charles Martinet is involved with it somehow.
Yeah, he's the narrator, but he never talks about being Mario.
That's actually kind of cool, though.
It is cool.
Kind of neat because there's like a point where he's like where there's the point where they talk about Nintendo and early Nintendo and creating Mario, and he never once is like, it's a me. And you're like, it could have been very easy for him to do that.
Oh, totally.
But he has a really good narration voice.
Netflix can't afford the Mario voice.
Yeah.
but
could they afford the Wario voice? Because he also does that.
What if he was just
give
like,
me money?
What if he was just like, I'm Wario, and then like, yeah, but you're Mario too, and he's like, no, I'm just proud of being Wario. But he has like a very kind of calming, chill voice that makes it really pleasant to watch because he does the narration of the whole series. And yeah, because I don't know if I'd heard much of him other than just doing, Mario and
absolutely unrecognizable voice. Like in terms of like, if you only know him from like his work as Mario, you just be like, I have no idea that this.
I wouldn't have known it was him unless I saw I saw him in the credits and I was like, wait, that Mario. But
Mario.
That Mario. Yeah, but I think like especially if you want something kind of chill, like I think there's a lot of really great video game, especially informational content and historical content on YouTube, which I think people have been kind of comparing it to. But I think the thing that really sets it apart is just the amount of access they had to talk with a lot of cool people.
People will open a door for Netflix.
Right. And it's a very well-made production, which I think is kind of fun to watch, especially as somebody who likes the video games. But I think it's the type of thing too where it really does a good job of straddling the line between making it accessible for everybody, but also making it not just like, hey, did you hear that ET came out and it caused the video game crash? Like it makes it, it covers new ground for people who are enthusiasts, but also I feel like I could recommend it to like my dad who doesn't play video games at all. And cool. I feel like he could still enjoy it. So.
Sounds great. If you could have the same kind of documentary about another developer, be them old or new, what kind of like, you know, even like kind of the Double Fine style, what developer would y'all want? I would like to see Swery's process.
Sure.
Oh my God, that'd be fun.
Like, Danny O'Dwyer with No Clip already like has done so many. Like
I was gonna say Supergiant is the one I would have picked, but there's
so many
phenomenal. Yeah, there's like multiple phenomenal Supergiant documentaries.
Square.
So it's I like there are so many, like, you know, we never get the like real like weird or like what happened to Final Fantasy like 13 versus and becoming Final Fantasy 15, like that story. Like
what I want to see?
Not so much developers, but it's like specific game stories of how they became either the messes or like Duke Nukem Forever. How did that
geez.
I want to see. I know what it is studio wise. I want to see the inside of Maxis.
Wow.
I want to see how I want the story. I want to see from back then when they were new, and then I want to see what it's like there now, because developing The Sims is so challenging because they have such a passionate fan base. And then they also have that push pull. I mean, they wouldn't be able to do this in the way that I want, because I would want them to be able to say, hey, EA fucking sucks to work under. Well, if it's true. I don't know if that's true.
Because then you could also get the disaster of SimCity.
Exactly. That's what I mean, is you can get, and you can see things like Spore and how all of that progressed. And
Dark Spore.
And so I think that would be really interesting. They're the studio that I think if Danny could go into any of them, I would say Maxis probably.
Yeah, like I kind of would like something similar, but in the before and after with EA, but with BioWare. Like it'd be really interesting if they could be very upfront about it and frank, which I know that they never would be. Yeah, candid about the experience of moving from being BioWare to being BioWare under EA. And I think that could be it's an interesting story to hear about, and I'd be really interested to hear from devs what it was like. But again, I don't think that there's any way that we could get that until maybe sometime in the future when
you know what,
BioWare's defunct.
You know what, Insomniac, I would like to hear about their stuff, because I like most of Insomniac's games. They're good. So hit me with it. Danny O'Dwyer.
I mean, with that in mind, I
Do
might
it.
even want to look at Irrational.
Sure. Yeah,
Anyways.
that would be really interesting.
I mean,
well,
Pandemic.
we can go down the list.
Yeah, there's
exactly.
a lot. We could go. We could talk about this for
so
hours.
many, so many good
Hey,
devs.
listener,
that
if
are
you have a
interesting
studio,
ones.
tweet at us.
It's sad because
At Fix Podcasts on Twitter.
one of my favorite things about PAX is over the last couple of years has been going to see Danny's Bandland booth because he sets up a no clip booth and he has a wall where you can write on Post-its, and he's like, you can do as many as you want over the course of the weekend, and then he sticks the Post-it up on the wall for studios and games that you would like to see no clip documentaries on. And it's super fun because he's such a nice, engaging person that he'll be like, oh, that would be so interesting, we could go into this and we could go into that, and we'll have a conversation with you about your idea.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, it's really cool. He seems like
a really cool person.
he's
to
a
me.
really
Like,
pleasant, sweet guy. Not to change the subject, but
Yeah.
Anyways, High Score
Well-
sounds great. I think I will watch that. Thank you, Allison.
yeah.
Thank you, Billy Mitchell.
Oh God, we can't do that to
You
Allison.
can't-
I'm
you
pushing.
can't.
I'm
I know,
officially
I was
pushing
like-
back.
You know what?
against this.
Yeah, make sure to bleep that so that way we don't get
I was
sued.
gonna say, and worse, based on the way that his brain works, Allison will probably be the one to get sued, even though
Yeah.
we're the not.
he'll be
we,
like, you're
you.
impersonating
You're the one.
me, even though I'm like,
Allegedly.
no, fuck it. He allegedly sues people all the time, and
Allegedly.
allegedly
Well,
is kind of a jerk.
we are
Asshole.
we are going to move on into the news allegedly. And this week, there was some big news this week. I think we can move through everything else and then jump into the big the Xbox stuff, because there's a lot of
there's a lot.
smaller things and then some big stuff. I'm gonna hit you with the stuff that broke right before the podcast, and that is there is now a PlayStation event planned for Wednesday the 16th. Yes, Wednesday the 16th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, where they will presumably announce price, launch lineup, pre-orders for the PlayStation 5. You hope.
I bet they won't confirm the launch lineup. I bet they'll say launch window for all that stuff.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe.
I would agree. What
maybe.
do you think? What do you think they have to do to one up Microsoft? Because I think they're obviously going to try and match what Microsoft has done between price and all of that, and revealing that. But I feel like to take headlines away, they need to do something new. Is there any information Microsoft has not provided that they should?
I think if they can match Microsoft, they win because they have games that are interesting.
That's
like
fair.
Microsoft has a great service, but there's no reason to upgrade from your current Xbox, or if you have a PC, to buy the new one based on what's coming to that service this holiday.
And it's easy enough to say, I'll get the $299 Series S and get a PlayStation 5, whether that's $499 for like a disc drive one, because you're like, oh, I need a Blu-ray player, or you do like maybe a $399 discless version, all digital version.
And I think that's the price points they will hit. I think to make that stick, though, what they need to do more and more, I think what they need to do is offer a financing option through a Sony Visa credit card that's like, and they need to center that as like, hey, 0% APR, 24 months, $35 a month or whatever to get PS Now. Plus they need to match like the all access thing, because I think that's going to be huge for Microsoft in the US, at least, and other territories.
Do you think they augment PS Now? And if so, did they talk about it?
I think they should, and this would be the place to start talking about it.
I think,
they've been slowly building on it and like making it better.
Yeah, for sure.
But they've been at it so much longer than Microsoft with like that, the Game Pass and PS Now are similar. They're different like in many ways, but they're similar. Like here's your library of games that you can play anytime. But
I think what they should do with that service, me and my infinite Sony should hire me clearly. I think I think because of the way their exclusives sell their systems so hard, I understand why they wouldn't want to just say, and you'll be able to play every exclusive on PS Now. And I think it's unrealistic to want for that. But I think
systems.
I think what they should do is, say, with PS Now, you can get a like 3-hour trial that you can stream for all of our new first party titles, so that you can feel like you're getting the ability to play them, and maybe even you stream. I mean, it's hard because bandwidth issues, and streaming takes up a lot of bandwidth. But if you have the bandwidth to do it, maybe you can stream it while you're downloading it or something.
They should definitely do that.
Yeah, and I think that's not going to be
on the service. Then
I think that makes the PS Now as a service a lot more compelling if you can try out new exclusives. I don't think they're ever going to just offer them on the service. I mean, after they've come out, sure, like a year after they've released, maybe. But
do you
I mean, yeah, they've had Horizon on their Spider-Man.
They've done that.
Yeah, I feel like they
Bloodborne's been on there.
I feel like they could in the future if they somehow really struggled and the Xbox completely destroyed PS5, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No,
I don't think they have to do that with PS Now.
Do you think they ratify their PC plans?
No.
Okay.
I think they say you can stream PS Now on PC through the PS Now client there still. I wonder, I think maybe bringing it to phones, to Android at least, might make sense for the future. I don't know with their infrastructure how easy that is, but I know they've been using Azure.
Well,
they could
bring it to iOS.
Could they? But the other thing that I think the only thing they really need to do is to hit price parity for the disc version and the Series X, and I think offer that financing plan that I think is really important. I think it would be a shrewd move to say, because of the coronavirus pandemic and the ways that it is affecting the global economy, we're offering an introductory price that is $50 lower than the final price for like this holiday, November and December or something, because then they undercut Microsoft by $50. And if they do that plus offer financing where it's like, hey, you're locking in this price through your financing and going to pay 0% interest on it, I think that would be a really shrewd move. I don't know that I think that isn't kind of icky in a way, but to use the pandemic that way. And they don't have to say that
at the same time, it would, right.
Yeah, I think it would be good for a good way to make, because $50 is is a notable amount for people who are price conscious about those systems.
I feel like people who are price conscious are going to get a Series S if they're looking, and there's no way that Sony beats the Series S on price, which we'll talk about. Series S being $299, which we'll talk about later in the news, but there's no way Sony beats that in any world. But maybe the value of, well, it's more powerful, it's only $50 more than the Series S, and it's more powerful. Maybe that gets people, but I feel like at launch,
it would make I bet it would make
price conscious people.
It could easily make people willing to buy it right away as opposed to buying it later. Because I know that I'm, as somebody that is financially affected by COVID, trying to decide when or how I'm going to get a new console has been, like I'm not worrying about it, but it's definitely been on my mind when people are talking about it, is that, hey, I still don't have a job, spending hundreds of dollars on a gaming console is not exactly great. It would possibly make me consider getting a PlayStation 5 at launch if they were like, here's a cheaper price. Like I wouldn't necessarily, be the most friendly thing to do, especially if you're using that. But if they wanted to have an early, like, look, we won, look at how many consoles we shipped, I think that could be a possibility too, or that would help.
I also will go back to, this dovetails with the larger Xbox topic, so maybe we'll talk about it more, but there is Series S at $299 is a phenomenal price, and that seems like a really good value. And if you don't have any way to play video games, it seems like a great in for this holiday, but there is no reason whatsoever to purchase a new Xbox if you already have an Xbox or a PC.
Yeah.
Like there is just nothing coming out for the Xbox.
Right.
I mean, June, I think, is when we've heard, like, maybe I've heard that date thrown around for Halo, like next year.
I don't think they know.
I don't think they know either. And so there may not be a reason to purchase an Xbox until well into next year.
Yeah. If you already have an Xbox or just stick it out with Game Pass, you've already got the thing you want.
Especially if you have a One X, like, So anyway.
Or a PC.
Yes. Well, so look for that Wednesday, the 16th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Check your local time zones listings. I don't know. Let's see.
Open
Next
the
up.
TV guide.
Yep. The internet guide, please. Next up, we got the EGX 2020, and was it Eurogamer Expo? Is that what that is? I don't know. And PAX Online are both happening, and that means there are going to be a lot of game demos on Steam. So check that out. That'll be going up later today, or probably by the time you hear this. Look for it.
Has PAX Online, they've been doing panels and stuff over the past
it's already started.
Oh, that too, probably. Okay. Yeah.
I don't think the demos are up yet, but
the demos are starting to go up. That's the main thing. I don't know.
Yeah, because I feel like I've been seeing those panels going around, but it's cool that they're doing actual game demos.
Demos are going up now.
It may be people advertising them and they haven't happened yet too. I'm not sure.
So that's that. We got Hyrule Warriors 2. Nintendo once again just being like, oh yeah, here's another game. This is probably the last thing for this year. Like the last thing they're announcing for this year. Hyrule Warriors 2. Is it November, right?
It is both a game that I want to play. The first game that I want to play for the Switch that's been exclusive like badly in a while. And I want to play through Breath of the Wild before then, which isn't going to happen. So I will probably play this game next year. But
notably, this game is a prequel to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, in lore, right?
And it's canon. Yeah, it's canon now.
It feels like it kind of, I mean, again, you were not Allison last week. I was trying not to be too nasty to Nintendo. And also...
honestly, though, it's definitely one of those things where Nintendo's one of those companies where I'm just like, fine, you might as well take my money. But I can recognize when they've put
this to me
some questionable.
This is exciting. It also feels like a shiny object to me. It also feels like Nintendo being like, you were on the verge of being critical of us, but here is this. And then the Twitter sphere around Nintendo
people are like, man,
I love this. Let's play it. And I kind of was like rolling my eyes a little hard at the fawning because it's like, yes, Breath of the Wild is amazing, but Nintendo still has fuck all for you.
And
like,
also,
come on.
Have most of those people played Musou games before?
Yeah, there's that too.
Did you play did they play the first Hyrule Warriors? Because I enjoyed the first Hyrule Warriors a lot, but if you're expecting Breath of the Wild from it,
that's what I'm going to be interested in, because I haven't played Hyrule Warriors. I actually want to. If I got to get it when it's on sale. I like Musou games for what they are, but I don't know that Hyrule Warriors 2 is going to be a critical darling, except for the fact that I wonder if there are going to be critics who are so starved for like good Zelda shit that they're just like, I love this even though, like me with Marvel.
Can I play as like the heroes from Breath of the Wild, like the Goron,
that seems to be the implication. Yes,
the Gerudo lady.
I think so.
That would make me interested, but I'm also never going to play this game.
You can play as Zelda,
and I don't like Breath of the Wild, but like that stuff would, like playing as those characters would make me interested.
You can play as Zelda and Link, but it's set like 100 years before. Are they hundreds of years old?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The story of Breath of the Wild is rad. It's really, really, really cool.
I never got to that part then.
Like when Link wakes up, he's been asleep for like 100 years at the beginning of the game. And he was like wounded and then put in this like tomb thing to heal.
Conceptually, seeing the events that led to it is really appealing, because most of that game's story is telling you about what happened. So playing through that stuff in this setting, because the reason they can't make you play through it in Breath of the Wild is because it is like a huge war. So playing through that as in a Musou game sounds cool. I mean, there's no doubt, but it definitely also feels like a thing that they could have announced a long time ago, and instead it's we don't have absolutely nothing. You shouldn't get mad at us. You should get excited for this thing. That's actually for kind of a niche audience.
What is the Yellow Turban Rebellion of the Zelda timeline?
Oh, fuck if I know.
Yeah.
Who are the eunuchs of the Zelda timeline?
The guy.
Oh, I don't know about Gorons being eunuchs.
I mean, do we ever see?
Speaking of eunuchs, Apple opens iOS to game streaming services.
Oh my god!
Oh wow, 2 separate Wario references. Yeah, this is extremely stupid if you've actually read the article.
This is and I think I don't remember if we talked about this in chat or like last week or whenever this like I don't know, the game streaming stuff with iOS and Apple going like, nah, we're not going to allow xCloud or Stadia on here. Now they've changed course and they've said, oh yeah, you can have game streaming services on our platform. You just have to submit each game individually as its own app.
Yeah.
You can have a catalog app, but then everything has to be its own
is as petty and
executable, and we need to evaluate it.
This is as petty and childish as Epic continuing to submit Fortnite updates, even though they know that it's not going to do anything.
Well, now I think they can't, but yeah.
Yeah, it's so stupid. Like, and they don't do this with anything other than games. And we've talked about that for months.
Yeah.
Like
it's like if they asked Netflix to submit every single show for them to look at and be like, okay,
or
you can
Kindle to submit every single book, even though there's the Apple Reader or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah.
Like
it's like if they did that, yeah.
They really should. If I were Microsoft, I would say, okay. And I would I would work with a handful at least of the games on Game Pass and say like, you can play select games on iOS and just flood the store with like shell apps that launch into the games as like a streamed game.
Very funny.
I mean, that's what Apple is saying they want. Like, just that.
But I think clearly they don't actually want that. I think they just are seeing this as a deterrent to get them to not do it.
Apple should do it, or Microsoft.
And I think Microsoft should totally do it.
Entire Game Pass library.
Yes, and they should leave them. And then when the game no longer works because it's off of Game Pass, there's just a shell app on the App Store that doesn't do anything, and they can put an update on the game's page, on the app's page, saying this no longer does anything, and then it just sits there taking up a spot in the store, which is like a kilobyte of data, but still, that would be very funny.
And then they raise to the top of the App Store.
Yes,
because people like rate them highly.
Yep.
And then there's just like Halo 5 top of the App Store.
Yep. that's what I'm saying. That's what I would do it if I was Phil. I would be like
Halo Infinite.
Let's make this fucking happen.
They make
that would be rad.
Stupid decisions.
And it would flood Apple's like submission process because they would have to review if they're doing it like they say. Either all of these apps get approved really quickly, and then Microsoft can say it's weird that it was so fast and clear that Apple isn't actually reviewing them, or B, they're just mired in it for months.
Yeah, and just every time a new game comes out, just adding to it. Yeah, that'd be good.
So dumb.
All right, well, yeah, that's the ongoing Apple game streaming saga. All right, next up. Not much to say here other than AMD announced 2 events for October. For some reason, October 8th, they will be revealing presumably the Ryzen 4, right? No, Ryzen 3. What are they on?
I don't know.
The next generation of CPUs.
The Zen 3.
Zen 3. They're Ryzen. I get it now. Okay. It's like
Ryzen shine.
But
exactly. He has Ryzen. That should be their, oh my God, their marketing campaign. He has Ryzen.
And it's just then, Jesus Christ.
Yes. With a sick gaming PC.
Yes. RGB
that has
RG
who has
the sickest Christ you ever seen.
A 4950X and RX 67,000 or whatever they're going to call their next generation of CPU or GPU, a 6969X.
When they go to the next one, they can make it super fucking metal and they can crucify their RGBs.
Crown, what would
they could have a 666 card.
The crown would be made of Ripjaw RAM. Come on.
Of course. This is extremely stupid though.
But it's the GPU
more interesting than what they've announced so far.
October 28th.
Yeah, like the CPU one is fine. Like that's been expected.
Like so late compared to.
So for context, the 3080, the NVIDIA card that everybody's talking about, releases on September 17th.
Thursday. Coming Thursday.
This event happens over a month later.
It's not like people are gonna wait. Like, I mean, a lot of people will wait, but there are going to be a lot of people who just buy the NVIDIA card.
Well, there are a lot of people who won't be able to get a card because the stock is going to be limited. But
also that, but like also to both sideism, like there were lots of times when these GPUs were released like 6 months apart, like pretty much diametrically opposed.
It sounds like you're playing devil's advocate, and RGB just does not appreciate that. You'll be getting a visit on October 28th.
Is the devil Intel at this point?
You're going to go to video card hell.
Man, remember when they had shit like that on the boxes? They were just like,
not just on the boxes.
Here's a blue alien lady.
Not just on the boxes.
Like a
demon. They were on the card.
When I was like a child, like we're talking like my dad has gotten PC Gamer, I think, for my entire life. And when I was a small child, like 5 years old, I would get afraid of the video card ads in the magazine. I'm not kidding, because they had some really fucked up monsters in them.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, but I hope the new, oh God, what do they call their GPU series?
The RX, the Radeon, the Navi.
Yeah,
big Navi.
I hope Big Navi ends up being interesting because
huge Navi.
Huge, thick.
Thick Navi, the next generation.
RDNA 2 does seem really interesting, and it is what's in PS5 and Series X. Had to think about it. I almost called it the One X.
And the Series S. It's both of them.
Yeah, so like maybe you can get some kind of performance that you get off the consoles on there, and blah blah blah.
They usually do pretty good like price to performance stuff, but they don't have the feature set that they don't have the feature set. So how am I going to make machinima without how am I going to that looks kind of fun. I don't know.
I think these cards, my kind of uninformed guess would be that these cards are going to have a really, really attractive price point. Because if the consoles, if it's comparable technology, I totally understand there's a big gap, but if there's comparable technology in the consoles and the consoles are selling for what they are, you would think that the cards would be really, really good value. From a performance perspective.
AMD seems pretty confident, but then they were like, tomorrow, posting lyrics of the song tomorrow. And then the thing that happened the next day was an announcement of announcement of two announcements that are, at least a month away.
And honestly, almost. They're announcements of announcements for announcements, because there's no way they're going to launch those on the day the things happen.
Well, I mean that's an announcement, and then like they say, okay, here's when it comes out. But yeah, they're
announcing the announcement of the date announcement.
Yeah, they were teasing the announcement of the announcement.
I can't. My brain is breaking. We have to move on.
What's next, Andre?
Hey, remember the Control? I know you try not to think about it, Alex, but it's been in the news lately because they're putting out an Ultimate Edition, and that Ultimate Edition has all the DLC and all the patches. Too. It's great. It's beautiful. It's a almost bouncing Ultimate Edition.
I really wanted to buy it and play it again, but I was like, I have too much to play. I'm just going to let the launch sale pass.
if you buy it on current consoles, you'll get an upgrade for free to the next generation of systems where you can play it with beautiful ray tracing, 4K, supposedly. All the all these
Andre.
amazing features, because it ran like doo-doo on the current consoles.
But Andre, I spent $120 on my version of Control on current consoles because I'm Canadian and got all the season pass. I also get that upgrade, right?
It's impossible.
Well, you did for about I don't know, like 2 hours until 505 games went, oh shit, we said we couldn't do that, we weren't going to do that, and then revoked everyone's all season pass holders upgrades if you own the original game and the season pass.
Yeah, their messaging around it was extremely terrible. Like you said, Pat, they were saying it's impossible. They're saying, no, we can't do that. And it reeks of that whole crossplay is impossible, and then Fortnite just enabling it for like a day or whatever, or like an hour. Like it
when Epic did something sick and cool.
Yeah, when they were the punk rock
thing.
Game developers. But like it to me, it sounds like the developers want it, and that's why they're like, hey, look, we could turn this on if we wanted. And then the marketing side, the product side is like, no.
The publishing stuff is like, we got to get as much money out of this as we can. And it's because what they said was basically every way we looked at it, we couldn't come up with a way that made sense because we couldn't give an upgrade to everybody because there was something in the way. And that's bullshit.
Yeah, of course.
And everyone called 100%. It as such. Like,
and then it was proven as such. 505 sucks. 505 is a really bad publisher.
So
they put out a lot of bad ports. And...
I'm curious, Allison, what are your thoughts on this as someone who wanted to play Control, but then got boned over by the fact that it didn't run on your PS4?
It's not great. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just feels very weird, especially since it's like, it'd be one thing if it was like, okay, you bought the original game and you bought the season pass, then you get an automatic upgrade, and then
totally reasonable
to the next console.
Sure.
Yeah, but
that's what happened. People who had the season pass got upgraded.
Yeah. Right, and then then they got it back. But like versus. You have to buy an entirely new thing. It just makes zero sense, especially since there's no new content beyond the season pass, which I think is good. It was fine because, it'd be kind of crummy if you had to buy an entirely new version to get like whatever amount of content. But
like they did some like checkpoint stuff, but that's patched into the base game.
Yeah, but like imagine if the Alan Wake stuff was hidden behind this and not the season pass kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, then it would at least make sense to like charge for it. Like, but
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been frustrating, especially since it would be nice to be like, hey, we know that some of that EU people who bought it at launch had a not perfect experience, especially on
people who bought it on console.
Fuck
you.
At launch.
Like, you get the shittiest version of the game, and we're gonna milk you for even more money.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Especially when it's like, you paid us $60 at launch to play this game. No thanks. That's like you don't matter, and it's like it kind of sucks,
Like if they can just say whoopsie doopsie, we made a fucksy wucksy, like that would have been pretty great. But it just seems like they're not willing to like, I don't know, they're not willing to be beholden to their player base.
Yeah, they just suck. They're liars and they suck. I to the extent that like I don't know. I don't know what they have coming, but I would be inclined to not purchase 505 games if I was concerned about stuff like that. I mean,
and I can't imagine Remedy is at all happy about any of this.
Oh no, I don't think it's on them really.
No, me either.
I mean, it feels very much like how much money can we get from the audience kind of move, and that I would put almost entirely on publisher.
Yeah.
It's like they saw, this game reviewed real well and is real popular, so we can definitely charge for it.
Yep.
So
they did.
It's super dumb.
And it works. Like I said, I almost bought it for $30 because it was 20% off for the Ultimate Edition, which I don't have it on PC, so it didn't feel as bad to me to buy it again because just didn't own it there. But
yeah, and if you're on PC, you just need the season pass, and then you've got whatever the Ultimate Edition is. It's the same thing. So that's why it's been such a frustrating situation, is because it is literally just the game with the season pass.
Yeah.
All right. Next news story. No More Heroes 3 delayed into 2021.
Yeah, the message
also
that was put out was really, really good. Actually, I don't know if
it was good.
Like it was pretty, like, I don't want to say from the heart, but like it was pretty well candid, to use the words we were using earlier. Mm-hmm. So it was good.
Okay. And then Kenna Bridge of Spirits is also delayed into 2021. I feel like
I think Cyberpunk's going to get delayed too.
They've said they have no intentions of delaying it again.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh boy.
I feel like they probably won't. But like, so Kenna, we were talking about this in our group chat, so we didn't talk about it on the podcast. That was like the only game that could have held my interest for getting a PS5 at launch. And now I don't see any other.
It's going to be on PlayStation 4.
Wait, is that not
and
also
Windows.
getting delayed?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, but I mean, it's not even. It's not
even really
like
exclusive.
Yeah. So like,
but
yeah,
I don't know, man.
Irrelevant.
I mean, I think it's good. Let them get it done. But
oh yeah. Make your game as good as it can be. Take the time. We'll still be here. I'll still be going. There's too many games.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's my constant.
The indies are rocking it.
Still playing Wasteland 3. Bumbling my way through like Mr. fucking Magoo.
Yo, I don't want to we don't have to talk about Wasteland 3, but it is a thing early on that is the wildest shit I have ever seen in a dialogue sequence ever.
Yeah.
And if you have Game Pass
on top of the dam.
So yeah, like skip ahead to a minute and a half if you are going to play Wasteland 3 and want to see the beginning of the thing. You're in a dialogue sequence and someone's brains get blown out in the dialogue sequence. You're like
in the
talking
game,
to them.
they zoom in and like have like full screen
dialogue, and they're like, "I'm gonna get you," and then it's just a gunshot and their head explodes. It's fucking wild.
It's great.
Anyway, you can play your head.
It's real good. It's real good. There's more moments like that, but not exactly
Sorry,
like that.
I had to get that off my chest because that was fucking rad.
So good. So good.
Sorry,
anyway.
my connection cut out. I missed all of that.
I'm excited for you to play it, Alex, so that we can. Yeah.
Brendan Fraser flies in dressed as George of the Jungle and
totally, and he's very fit.
Annihilates.
He does not watch out for that tree.
He tries. He's trying to collect bananas, but his ass cheeks clap together when he swings.
Crysis Remastered for PC gets a new graphical mode called Can It Run Crysis?
I bet my PC can run Crysis.
Why is this in here? Who put this here? Alex?
Yeah, because who fucking cares? That's actually the reason I put
to talk about it. Who cares?
They should have. I mean, yeah.
Like why did they?
Can It Run Flight Simulator?
Yes, because Flight Simulator is the Crysis currently.
Who cares? Like this is how old is Crysis? When did Crysis 1 come out?
Like 2006 or something.
Yeah,
2008,
yeah.
But like, they made like a big deal about it. They put out a whole video about it, and it doesn't even look that great.
Of course not. It's an old game
the old version looked better because like it had lots of foliage and stuff, and like they kind of take away all the foliage and just make like kind of nice wrinkly mountains, and it's like, but it looked better with all the trees. So
yeah. Well,
it's very dumb.
Guess what? I think Crysis has a fucking rad backstory and lore, and I love the beginning of that game. And I never finished it. I'm also probably never going to play it again in my life. So,
all right.
Yeah, I put it in there because it's so stupid, and who cares?
Moment of brevity.
Oh, who are the bad guys in
They're aliens.
They're
like aliens.
aliens.
Okay.
And they're very cool aliens that they don't like. It's very mysterious and secrety and like spooky and stuff. And that's awesome. That stuff is really cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War had an event to show off the multiplayer. What?
Yeah.
They always do this. It was a big multiplayer reveal event.
Isn't it like it's mostly the same? What's going on?
So it's the kind of thing where like it's kind of like when a league champion spotlight happens, I think if you don't play League of Legends, you would go, okay, but isn't it the same? They're just another character that you push the buttons and they do abilities. Like,
no, I mean, well, isn't this? I mean, specifically, isn't the Cold War multiplayer mostly the same in terms of like the character, like the loadout stuff?
So loadouts
Modern
are
Warfare. Or?
That's also kind of notable. Because that is not how Black Ops 4 was. So yeah, loadouts are the same. There's no point system, which they have done in Black Ops in the past. It's just the same loadout system as Modern Warfare with the addition of this wild card twist. So if you're into those games, that's interesting. I know my friends and I are, despite that, you know, Call of Duty being problematic fave 101, we are excited to see that like the loadouts are going to stay the same from Modern Warfare, because that's one of the best parts about Modern Warfare. They announced a really cool combined arms like mode where it has like tanks and boats and stuff, vehicles, but also it's only 12v12, which is really cool because the big 64 mode in Modern Warfare is a little tedious.
What if they use the power of the next gen consoles to make it 69-69?
Turns out adding more players is not the solution to the problem if the game doesn't really feel fun and snappy to play with more players.
Andre, it's Call of Duty. It would be 420 players, please.
Yes.
Fucking Mag 2.
Hell fucking yeah. So, total aside, I think Sony should bring back Mag, and that should be a huge blowout game for them. That's like a big platform exclusive. Just, I want to get that out there. I didn't say that last week. It was on I was thinking it as we were recording though. Mag 2 should 100% happen.
Should it be Mag 2 or like
awesome.
S-Mag, like super massive action game?
Yes. Yeah, maybe Smag. That would be great. And
Modern Assault, Smagma.
And what you do is it's planet side. You just make it planet side, where it's a huge like continent that people are fighting on. Anyway, that's a
I'm really
different
glad
different conversation.
Really glad none of you acknowledge that joke.
A bit. The other really quickly, just to run down at the other cool stuff. Cold War they're surfacing the math for the first time like ever in a Call of Duty. So
pop numbers off of people when you shoot them.
No, it's not that. People do have health bars, but there's no number pop-offs. It's more when you build a gun in the gunsmith, it'll say like this is a 20% increase to hip fire accuracy. Whereas in the past it's just been it makes you shoot from the hip a little bit better. And people have to do like data mining and hours of testing to figure out what that means. So this time they're just surfacing that, which is a big deal for like balance, because it helps people understand like their balance decisions. Couple new modes. The new maps look awesome, and they teased this interesting looking mode that's called Fire Teams, which appears to be 10 4-player squads go into a map kind of like a battle royale, but it's not game flow like that at all. Instead, you go around this large map and complete objectives, which change, you score points that way, and it changes the map. Like the example they used was maybe you go and launch a like chemical weapon, and then there's like gas covering part of the map, and people have to either find and use gas masks to fight there and complete objectives there, or they'll just take damage when they're in the area. So that mode sounds potentially cool. As someone who has a 4-person group, and we don't like playing Warzone because it's so like you drop in, we spend 20 minutes collecting gear, and then we die, is like we're not really looking for that kind of competitive shit. We're just trying to bounce in and have fun, and this sounds like a way to have that without it being as stressful. The last thing they did announce is Warzone is going to act as kind of like I know I said joint in the podcast chat, completely not realizing that was a pun, but it's like it's like a central pillar that presumably this and future Call of Duties will tie into. So while you can't carry anything from Modern Warfare into Cold War, you can play with your Modern Warfare unlocks in Warzone, and you will also be able to play with Cold War unlocks in Warzone, which I just said I don't super love playing Warzone, but I will say it's a very cool.
Are they gonna like add a map
stuff?
I don't be like a Black Ops map or
I don't think so. What they have said, I'm sure that they will do a new map at some point, because that's just
like you just load it. Like you got the Erangel, and you got the
the other PUBG
map.
But what they have said is you will be able to take your Modern Warfare guns and put them against Cold War guns in Warzone. Like that is, they will interact in that game.
And then then they'll bring in the Call of Duty 2 guns, and those people lose.
You get an M1 Garand, and you hear the ping from across the map, and you're like,
there actually is basically an M1 Garand in Modern Warfare. It doesn't ping, but it functions the same and looks the same. I don't think it pings. Maybe it does. Anyway, I think a lot of that stuff is pretty cool, and I am interested to play it. They have said too that there will be like narrative stuff in Warzone tied to Cold War, so it'll be like there'll be events and things that happen in Cold War, and they did that to sort of announce Cold War or to share the trailer, not announce it, but to share the first gameplay trailer or cinematic trailer, and the event that they did in Warzone was very cool, I will say. So yeah, all that stuff seems cool. Also, Call of Duty is a tool for imperialist propaganda, and it's totally cool if you want to say fuck that and not engage with it, because it is bullshit, and it is a lot of mental gymnastics to enjoy it.
Yep. What war crimes will we deflect this time?
Oh, plenty.
All right.
Because there's a lot of war crimes in the Black Ops games that you commit personally.
Let's see. Next, Ubisoft. Speaking of war crimes.
Yeah, not wrong.
Yeah, Ubisoft had their Ubisoft Forward event where they neglected, because of time constraints with editing, I guess, or whatever, they couldn't put in a video of Eve talking about all the shit that's been going on at Ubisoft once again.
Which, like, that video was fine. Like, I watched Eve's video. It was fine. I don't think it was like it. I wouldn't say it was good. I wouldn't say it went as far as it should have, but it was better than nothing. But like the problem with what happened is that I don't have the tweet in front of me, but they said due to time constraints or whatever, like we cannot get this to be a part of the show, which people were saying like, yeah, it's like, oh, we don't have to, we have an hour before the show, we can't edit this together, and that's a lie. Like that's straight up a lie. Like, I mean, the show was already produced. That is a video file. This other thing was a 4-minute video. You could do that on your phone, and it would splice, or it would mash those together, and it'll probably take 20 minutes to render on your phone. So like,
I think
they're lying.
if it had been a great video, like an actually great video, and all it was I didn't put it on the event, that would suck, and we would still be having this conversation. Yeah. But on top of that, while I would agree with you that maybe it's better than nothing, it's like, I actually think it's complex of an issue enough, because he references things like people didn't uphold Ubisoft's culture, when actually a lot of the abusers were people who shaped Ubisoft's culture. So it wasn't that they didn't uphold it. It's fair. That they said one thing and claimed to hold other people to a standard that they weren't even living up to themselves. So I think that's a pretty fucked way to put it. And then on top of that, they're putting $1 million over 5 years towards combating issues of abuse and sexism in their offices. Are you kidding me? Eves makes $2 million a year as his salary. Like, fuck off. That's like nothing to them. So I think you're right that like, if there felt like there was some sincerity from Eves, but at the same time, the actual language in that video, if you examine it, is like, so this is also a nothing statement. This doesn't mean anything, and you couldn't even be bothered to put this 4-minute nothing statement in front of your conference. So and then lie to me, it's and then lie about it.
Totally clear why they didn't put it in front of it, because most people have no idea about any of the stuff going on. But then to be like, oh, we didn't have time to put it in front of the video.
About it.
Are you kidding me?
And I think when you compound this stuff with
you've had months.
Yeah.
Months.
And when you compound this stuff with the horrible stuff that people have put up with and been exposed to and been hurt by and victimized by, and then you put that on top of the fact that they're making explicitly political games that don't seem to understand the politics that they're talking about, and then claiming that they're not political. It's just like, that company is a fucking mess. And I feel really bad for the people that work there that don't have these decision-making powers, because it's like, I understand why you want the games to succeed, but at the same time, it's just like, man, they're like just fucked culturally.
And like all of this was, what was the name of that game? The Splinter Cell thing that had the Black Lives Matter fist.
Elite Squad. Tom Clancy's Elite Squad.
And the person who was running that studio, correct me if I'm wrong, was Eve's like nephew or something.
Son, I think.
Oh, son?
I thought it was his son.
Oh Jesus, that's even worse. Like,
this was a relation.
It was a matter of days after that whole thing.
And like, I mean, we don't have to relitigate that, but you have to be completely ignorant of what is occurring in the world right now to run that. I mean, like a whole studio had to have signed off on that video. This is like, so that's the like thing that just blows my mind is, and that's why I think that Eve's statement is so hollow, because you're telling me, you're saying, oops, we did a fucky wucky, and it's like, no, motherfucker, you've been hyping this game for over a year now, and people are supposed to look at this stuff. And the fact that slipped through the cracks shows that there are the people that make decisions there about that do not care about this stuff. And you don't believe the thing that you're saying because you're not even paying attention to it. Yeah. So it's just really disappointing.
Yeah, well, to me, it comes across as very much the same way as when Riot was like, oh, we're going to do everything we can to change the internal culture here. Yep. And then 2 months later, everything comes back up again because they're not actually making changes. They're just saying the words.
And both are terrible. Yeah. I think the Riot thing is objectively, I mean, in both cases, people are getting hurt, right? So there's I certainly wouldn't try to rank them. Yeah. But at the same time, Ubisoft even has a platform in the form of a scheduled live event that they could use to talk about this stuff. And instead they're like, well, we don't want people to think about it though, so we're not going to talk about it.
We don't want to upset the stockholders.
Yeah, it's just absolutely clear that they don't give a fuck about any of this. I'm sure people there do. I'm sure there are people there who care. But I don't believe for a second that Eves does, based on that statement, personally.
Or he might care, but not care quite as much as the finances. Like,
totally.
It's like, oh, this is important, but it's not as important as, what our
just fought off the Vendy. They can't be rocking the boat.
And I think my official stance, and this goes globally beyond Ubisoft and beyond video games, is if you care more about money than you care about human beings being hurt and affected by a toxic culture, fuck you. You don't give a shit at all. Like, I'm not going to play a game where it's like, well, I understand the pressure he's under. No, it's money versus people's mental and physical health. Yeah. And there is nothing money is in no situation is money acceptable to put above that. Yeah. And so it's really fucked. I've been like really trying to not purity test every company because of companies aren't monoliths. And I was generally pretty depressed when I basically felt like I couldn't play or enjoy anything because there's problems everywhere. So I've been trying to do a better job of like, it's okay I feel okay playing Modern Warfare and then also publicly saying, hey, it's fucked that there's war crimes in this and this is bullshit and they should be criticized. This one's pushing me to the edge of like, I don't know if I can buy a Ubisoft game personally. I'm not saying other people need to feel this way, but I don't know if I can personally buy a Ubisoft game and feel good about it right now because it's just so blatant.
You mean you don't want a remake of Prince of Persia: Sands of Time?
Thankfully, it is very easy for me to say that because I don't give a fuck about anything Ubisoft has on their release slate. So it's important to note that.
Speaking of the event, it was okay. I don't know. There wasn't anything particularly interesting.
I didn't watch it, and I don't really feel like I missed anything.
No, you missed that Breath of the Wild game, and it looks fine.
Immortals: Rise of the Phoenix or whatever.
Yeah. Whatever it used to be called, like Demons and Wizards or whatever. I don't remember.
Gods and Monsters.
That
was a good name. Gods and Monsters.
That was an okay name actually.
Yeah. There's a very funny clip of Jeff Grubb playing Immortals on Twitter that people should go look up. Where he's basically fucking something up over and over again, and it's hilarious. Right. Yeah, I'm interested in Assassin's Creed, but frankly, Valhalla sounds like probably the worst one since Syndicate. So, really? It just doesn't sound like there's anything in that game that is interesting beyond what they've done in Origins and Odyssey, and I don't think it's. To me, it's like another bloated 100-hour experience. Is like.
And
was
Watch
cool.
Dogs is
I think it looks interesting, and I'm interested, but at the same time, I also did not come anywhere close to completing Odyssey, so it's kind of like if I have that like oh, I really want to play that open world Assassin's Creed type game, I'm like, well, I already have like dozens and dozens of hours left of this giant 100+ hour game.
Before we move to Watch Dogs, I will say I will probably play Valhalla at some point, but it is not a priority for me to buy it at launch. So
and I have one last question about Ubisoft stuff, and then we can probably move on, I guess. But who gives a shit about Aiden Pierce? Like, why are they bringing him into Watch Dogs?
I was literally about to say, stop
weird.
trying to make Aiden Pierce happen. He's not going to happen.
And
wasn't he the one where they were like calling his hat iconic?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that was in the second game.
Yes,
the iconic. You could get the DLC of the iconic
it was in
hat. No.
Oh yeah, you're right, because they called it his iconic hat for the second game. Yeah. Yes. That's a very good Idle Thumbs episode. One where
they're like, it's iconic, and you're like,
search
who?
Search Idle Thumbs iconic hat. Yeah. It's a very funny.
And it's like you say Aiden Pierce, and I just like my brain just goes like.
Also,
there was a beekeeper.
Oh yeah, Watch Dogs.
Like a cyber. I saw a cyber beekeeper. What?
Oh, so it's Marvel's Avengers. The entire fucking point of Legion is that you can play as anyone, and it's like cool because so why the fuck would you want to play as one, a specific named character, and two, not Marcus, who is actually really good and maybe the best you got like Cassandra, Marcus, and Bayek, and those are like the three phenomenal Ubisoft characters that have happened this generation.
And people seem to like Wrench as well, right?
I don't remember who Wrench is.
Emoji face guy from Watch Dogs 2.
They, I don't remember. But
I think it's he's just autistic.
A good character, yes.
I don't think they're non-binary.
Yeah. A good character. And I mean, Watch Dogs 2 has a bunch of good characters. I think that Watch Dogs 2 is kind of boring, unfortunately. But I mean, the story and the characters are fucking awesome. Yeah. And so it is insane that they would... Watch Dogs 1 is boring and the characters suck. So it's wild that they would...
The best of both worlds.
But hey, at least they didn't add Sam Fisher.
Thank God. Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of companies that just step in it without the unforced errors, EA is putting full screen ads for like Amazon shows and other things in UFC 4 or whatever it is. EA Sports UFC 4. It's what I mean, it's whatever. It's mostly unoffensive, but also it's a $60 game, and you're shoving like, I assume, unskippable like full screen ads in people's faces. Like, I don't think they're like trailers or whatever, but it is just like mid-fight, like you might see like sponsored by Snickers.
Yeah, like what it was,
that kind of thing.
Like it only showed full screen for like 5 seconds, maybe. It was the kind of thing where it's like, oh, this round just finished. We're going to wipe the camera over. And during that wipe, it's just going to show The Boys on Netflix for like 3 to 5 seconds. And then it just
something they would do during an actual match.
If I bought this game on Steam and it popped up with unskippable ads between rounds, I would refund it immediately. And I'm not even a person who is like that. Usually I'm just like, well, whatever. Like I am whatever at like cosmetic costs and battle passes and stuff. So I don't, but I think I hate the way that ads are exist on the internet now. And so to put that in the game is like, man.
EA's done this once before, haven't they? Didn't the start of Hot Pursuit have an unskippable ad that you could not like you had to watch?
I don't believe that's true, that was true forever. It may have been true at a point. When I played Hot Pursuit probably a year after it came out, and that was not the case. But I would not be surprised if it was there at launch. Reminder, EA is the company that put fucking billboards with ads on them in Battlefield 2142, which was set in a gritty, dystopic, a post-apocalyptic future, and then you would have a billboard that would have like Nike shoes on it.
I looked it up. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I should note this is the Hot Pursuit from 2011. Yeah,
the Criterion one. Yeah.
Unskippable game ad for Need for Speed Shift 2.
That sucks, but at least it sucks.
Its own
clear.
Product.
Yes, it is at least another Need for Speed game. I still think it's terrible, but
yeah.
If you like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, you might like Need for Speed Shift 2.
Also, EA,
probably if you want to
get people excited about Battlefield again, you got to make another 2142. That game fucking ruled.
That I had like one issue of PC Gamer as like a child because that was all I could afford and I didn't have a gaming PC. So why the fuck did I have an issue of PC Gamer? I don't know. But I would just read the section on Battlefield 2142 like, oh my God, I want to play this game.
Quick sidebar. DICE, Respawn, Battlefield 2142 Part 2.
Ooh.
Because that game was a precursor to Titanfall in a lot of ways. And if you made Titanfall, bigger maps, more vehicles,
that'd be real cool.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Big and also big energy with that one.
Oh wow.
It's a me, Mario.
Come on, get up. Come on, get down with the battlefield. All right. Now we got the big meaty news this week. Tonight or this morning, early the wee hours, some things leaked from Microsoft, which was what was supposed to go up probably on Monday based on the contents of it, but it didn't matter because this stuff all leaked way earlier in the week when Windows Central posted, yo, here's the Lockhart system, the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X. They're $299 and $499 respectively, and they're out on November 10th. Yep. And Microsoft was like,
well, the response on Twitter was great. That the whatever that meme is of, I don't know what show it's from.
It's like the puppet, and it like kind of side eyes, and then it'll just look straight ahead.
That's all they put, and that was like probably like, say what you will about meme culture in like corporations, but that was probably one of the best ways they could have responded.
That's pretty great.
They're just like, and like, you know, because Windows Central, they're focused on Microsoft stuff, and like it seemed reasonable. Like we knew there was another console.
Well, it seemed
the price was surprising, but
it seemed reasonable. But then like the fact that the Series S looks like a tiny boombox was people were like, what the fuck is that? That can't be real.
Yeah, it does look a little goofy. So I watched the briefing, and I decided I don't really like the Xbox consoles because they're too smooth, too clean, too angular. They're
Pat, you look like you got something to say.
Rectangular. Yeah, I know. Please.
I can't. I mean, I just can't. I don't like that.
Nah, hey, well, you take it up with Microsoft. They're the ones who made these smooth rectangular boxes.
These obelisks.
Yeah, it's like the obelisk and the boombox.
I'm into it. I like the way they look.
that sounds like a really weird novel. I'm sorry.
So I watched the. French. So they had all this news. We'll get to the rest of it in just a second. Yeah. But they were gonna put up like a briefing, or I don't know exactly how it was going to go out, but they had this like 30-minute video that was going to go out that leaked before the podcast a couple hours ago, and I watched it. And they after they showed the Series S, they talk about, like, the lady is like, oh yeah, they look related, like maybe they're not siblings, but like the same okay.
What?
That's weird. Why are you talking about the consoles being related to each other?
Imagine if they were
I just decided and it's Crusader Kings 3, and they're trying. I like where this is going.
Yes.
That's very Jack Nicholson energy.
Anyway. Yeah, so I don't like the way these boxes look, and apparently they're related. Yeah, so then eventually, after their little Mimi acknowledgement, they did just come out and say, all right, here it is. You got us. Yeah, you caught us. Here is the Xbox Series S. It's confirmed. Coming November 10th. And they confirmed the $299 price point, which made it look like, hey, that Xbox Series S or Series X price point probably real at the $499.
Turns out.
And like a day later or something, I don't know. Later, they was like, yeah, okay, here you go. It's confirmed. You can get them both.
They just kind of put everything out. They're like, yep, here's the date, here's the specs, here's everything.
Yep. Pre-order starts the 22nd, right? Something like that.
Sure.
Okay. And you can finance it through do the Xbox All Access thing, which gets you 24 months interest-free financing, and you're locked in for 24 months of Game Pass Ultimate at $25 a month or $35 a month, depending on the system you get.
Yeah.
Which actually is cheaper than buying the console and then getting 2 years of that subscription.
Yeah, I think it worked out to like I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like if you did it straight up, like purchase the console and then just subscribed for all those times, it would work out to like $6.99 or something like that. And then by doing the all access, it turns out to be like $6.50. So it is actually cheaper to go that route, which is weird for financing, but sure.
They want to get people invested in that long term, especially with the Series S. I had to think about it.
Right.
Because, it's all digital, no disk drive, so you're not going to be trading games in or anything. So they've got you. I don't know. What do y'all think?
It seems interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good value if it can go the distance. I think the notion that they would do a pivot to this can't run this game, you got to stream it is a little, I don't know about that.
Yeah. We haven't talked about it on the podcast, but there was a rumor that was fairly accurate. They had like some clock speeds wrong, but Tweaktown posted a thing and it said next gen support for the Series S, where the Series X had next gen exclusives. There's been no details on that, and they say that it's going to run all the same stuff. So maybe that was just not true, or in a few years we'll see if there's like another half step, and I don't know, who knows. Or they pull Nintendo and say, hey, you can develop only for the Series X if you're crazy pants. I don't know, who knows.
I think the Series S will be extremely popular.
Yes, it'll be the most.
That price is really,
it's good.
Yeah. I've already seen people compare it to like other costs and in positive ways of like, oh, you can get a new next gen console for under $300. I think that's
totally like
cheaper than a jar of insulin.
Yep, that's what I saw earlier.
Wow.
Yeah, Laura Marston, really phenomenal. She's, I believe, a lawyer for Bethesda, and a really, really phenomenal insulin addict or activist. Who it's obviously, for people who don't know, important in my home because my partner is type 1 diabetic. She had a really great tweet that went around pointing out that it is cheaper if you buy an Xbox Series S than a vial of insulin, which is something that like my partner, for example, is prescribed 2 vials of insulin per month. So
yeah, and it's both horrifying how much insulin costs, and also like the Xbox Series S.
Series X is a good price for sure.
No,
that's a good price, and it's I would actually possibly consider it. I mean, as somebody that has literally never owned an Xbox, I'm like, that is a good price. Like
with Game Pass, that's
with Game Pass,
it's an extremely good deal. And like if I was in talks with anyone who had not done console gaming for a long time, I would advise them to probably get a Series S, because if they have not been doing console gaming for a long time, they probably don't care about 4K. Like they're probably still rocking a 1080p set. Like I'm still rocking a 1080p set.
I mean, like I don't care about 4K.
I have 4K television. I don't care about 4K. I would be happy to play in 1080p.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like, yes,
like,
I think
like the chances of me upgrading my TV to 4K is like, I don't know when that'll happen.
I looked at, I ran Forza Horizon 4 in 4K mode on my TV after I got it at 1X, and was like, yeah, I get it. It's pretty. And then switched to performance mode at 1080 because it's not that. I mean, it's a noticeable difference. But unless someone is next to you playing a game in 4K and you're sitting on your couch playing your game in 1080p, I don't know. It's fairly negligible in my opinion when you consider the cost difference here.
And like 120 FPS is another thing that like they've been pushing with these consoles, and most people, again, we talked about it a bit last week, I think, but like most people aren't going to use that either, like unless you're hooked up to a gaming monitor, and even then, like the Steam stuff that came out, I don't think there's anything about like refresh rate stuff, but most people are still on 1080p. I imagine most people are on 60 FPS or 60 hertz monitors. Most people are not going to get the benefits of the variable refresh rate, of the 120 FPS, of the 4K. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But for the people who want it, the people who want that stuff are not gonna want the Series S, right? Like, but they're pushing it on that. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah,
because they're targeting like a very hardcore gamer demographic.
Yeah,
and it's all buzzwords. So people go, "Oh, it does 120 frames per second." Well, that's more than 60. So I guess I'll get that one, even though their TV is only going to do 60 frames per second.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I think it's a strong move, and I hope Sony has something to respond with, but we'll see.
Yeah, reportedly they were caught off guard by the price, so we'll see. But one last thing that they announced was that EA Play will now be part of Game Pass Ultimate or PC Game Pass.
Oh, I didn't know.
So
PC Game Pass too. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you will get the basic version of EA Play.
PC Game Pass is rising to $10 a month.
Yeah.
Yes. And you can do some shenanigans if you cancel your subscription and then extend and then cancel and then extend and then cancel. And you can just like stack up $5 months. So do that ASAP, because I think it's the 17th that it's going up to $10 a month. Still a good deal, but not as good of a deal as $5 a month.
What I will say that I did not understand at first when this was announced, there are two tiers of EA Play.
Yes.
There's EA Play and EA Play Pro. Game Pass is going to include EA Play, which is still cool. It has a lot of their newer games like Plants vs. Zombies, that new thing. It has Need for Speed Heat on it. It has Battlefield 5. It has Anthem, if you want to play Anthem. But it has last year's sports games and only a trial of current sports games. And I think it doesn't have Jedi Fallen Order in it. So like it is a way for them to say, oh, this one is one that we want you to have to pay for. So they put that in EA Play Pro, and that is not included with Game Pass. So I think,
but it's still more games.
It's still good. I'm not saying it's not something to be excited for if you have Game Pass. It is just, it is a little unclear at first what the differences in their tiers are, because EA they called it EA Origin Access, and then they called it like, they've had like different naming conventions.
They added the Pro version, and then they changed it from Origin Access or Origin
Premier Access. Premier.
They had like the PC and the consoles had different names. Now it's just EA Play,
which is good that it's simplified, but it also is a little it's confusing. It was confusing to me at first because I heard they were unifying it, and I thought that meant there was one thing called EA Play now, when there are still two tiers. So
I had the same thought,
and it is slightly frustrating to me. I don't care that much, but it is slightly frustrating to me that like if you have Game Pass, I don't know that you can just pay an extra $5 and upgrade the Play part to Play Pro. Sure. I think you would still have to pay $15 as a separate sub.
Yeah.
So
something cool they did was they said that what was it that like if you were subscribed to EA Play
yes,
and also had Game Pass, they were going to credit you with like 3 times whatever it was worth, like a 3-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they said.
Yeah, they're doing a make good of some sort.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Yes, there's converting your time to Game Pass Ultimate or Game Pass whatever time, I think. So I don't know.
Yeah, which is good.
It's cool. It's still a cool thing all around.
I think Microsoft is being real fucking kick-ass right now. Like the past year, maybe 2. Basically since Phil Spencer has been like a big name there. Like I think
it took a long time to turn that ship.
I think if the reason I mentioned the pro thing versus play, I think if it had current sports games, that would be a fucking knockout punch. That would just be like,
totally would be.
That would be like, if you care about Call of Duty and sports games, you should buy an Xbox, and which one you buy is just dependent on what your budget and your desires are. But like, I would say that for sure that would be the way to go. But if without current sports games, it's just a cool add-on that is nice to have.
Yeah, if that's all you want, get a Series S and you'll be fine.
Yep, which I still think that's probably true, but it's even it would have been wild if you didn't even have to buy any of those games. I mean, I guess you'd have to buy Call of Duty still, but yeah.
So we've got some breaking news.
Oh no.
There's an image of it in our group chat, so you guys can contextualize. But Cheska is playing Final Fantasy XIV, and there is a way to name your chocobos in whatever the casino thing. And from the bank of words, she made "fucks dragon."
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So, that's very important.
Thank you, Cheska, for being great.
I'm excited.
That's okay. Well, breaking news indeed. Down here, I see that I think that's it for the Xbox stuff. Is there anything else we missed with that? I think that was it. All just kind of came out and was like, oh, a fun fact is like back in like June or July, they did a thing with Phil Spencer, and he just had a Series S like sitting on his shelf.
Right,
that was cute.
It was like sandwiched between some things, like so there's like no way anyone would have been able to tell. You couldn't even see like the vent.
Yeah, it looks like a tissue box in that video.
Yeah.
Like between that and what's his name? Dude from Nvidia. I can't remember his name right now, but pulling the thing from the 3080 from behind the spatulas because it was there the whole time. Jensen? Is that his name?
Yeah. I can't remember his full name, but
or how 3090s have been hiding in your window AC units for the last 30 years. Hiding as window AC units. The joke being they're enormous.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry for any listeners who don't. God.
Tim the Tool Man here to install your 3090.
Yes, you're gonna need them, and you're gonna need a mounting bracket. Yep. A friend of mine bought a pole that you put in your case that holds up video cards.
Yeah. I've seen those.
Oh, yeah, those exist. Gonna need
he just built new PCs for him and his wife and was like, I need to secure this.
Why not just, I mean, I guess if you're not like upgrading a case, but just get like a horizontal case.
Oh, but, there's also vertical things you can get so you can put the GPU separate from the motherboard and like. But
that's what I have. I have a bracket that just sits in on a slot and holds it up. Anyway, we should end this podcast
with the two most important pieces of news.
The art school. We talked about this at some point. I think it's
because I played it. Yeah, but I just wanted to add it that they're adding it. It's coming to Switch. Looks like there's going to be more features, and also since it's going to have touchscreen support, since it's a game about making art, it might be a good place to play it.
Okay. When is that coming out?
Let me see. No,
it doesn't say.
I think it just says soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a neat game with like a very unique, interesting aesthetic and vibe. And
nice. Well, on that note, Mixolumia is coming to Steam eventually. Go on there and wishlist it because that game's rad.
Yes, it's very cool.
And our last bit of news, we got to check in with Baseball.
Yep.
It's good again.
Jessica Telephone has been shelled,
which is
and so has Nagomi McDaniel.
But I love the fact that if you read the description of what shelled means, because people were like, what the fuck does that mean? It says, what was it, Pat? I think you said
they're
the screenshot.
They're encased in a shell or something.
It's like, shelled players are shelled or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
A shelled player is shelled.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's permanent.
Yep. And it is permanent.
It's a good way to, I mean, assuming that it affects their ability to play, it is a good way to
balance.
What does it do, Allison?
So basically what it does is that you can, if you're shelled, you can no longer pitch and you can no longer bat. So
what can they do?
Play?
They can do defense.
Oh.
Apparently.
It's
because people were like not sure about that, but then they saw in some of the games today that they were actually doing defense. So
I think I was losing interest in Baseball because it felt like they and looking at the playoffs, the standings now, it's still happening, and hopefully this will start to have some effect. It's the same teams that are doing really well, and there's not, even with like all of the attempts to shuffle the leagues and stuff, we're still seeing like Tigers and Breath Mints, Jazz Hands and Lovers. And it's probably going to be Tigers. I don't know actually, but I would assume
Crabs did extremely well.
Well, yes, and that's another problem is an 80 and 19 team is perhaps a little broken. Of course, I guess they're out of the playoffs, but
yeah,
a lot of that for me, it made watching the regular season stuff just boring because I was like, none of this matters. It's going to be these teams in the end. And so
about the postseason and the interstitial.
And then even when it came to the postseason, it was like, oh, okay, Tigers and Pies. Guess I'm not gonna.
No, I don't mean the games though. I mean like the weird stuff.
Yes, and I think
on like the outside.
Think last season it was a little like whatever. I wasn't like, there wasn't lore stuff that happened that made me go, oh shit. But this whole shelling thing is awesome.
And how people are trying
doing my interest.
People are trying to understand this whole idol system.
Yes, trying to necromancy.
And getting all the peanut people up into the top 3. That's the goal, but people keep putting Jessica Telephone as their idol. So it's like keeps
people trying to revive Jalen Hot Dog Fingers.
Yeah, that's my people.
Yes, and I
but
like
Randall Marijuana though.
Yes.
Pour one out for Randall Marijuana.
I don't want to. I'm in no way. This is not me like taking glee in people's sadness. So I don't want to imply that like I have anything against fans. But the Jessica Telephone fandom, while I also think she's the person that role plays her is awesome and stuff, like I have a lot of positivity there. I also think it's very entertaining to watch her, because she's broken the game, to watch her be basically functionally removed and to see people have reactions to that, while also it not just being that she died, because that would have been like, people would have had a really hard time with that. And
it's just like, no, she's functionally can't, like,
interesting.
Yes.
It's like if Tom Brady was suddenly shelled and you'd be like,
yes,
what is it? What?
I just read, I just have Baseball open now because why not? Permanent modifications are never removed automatically.
Oh yeah, so I'm sure that mechanics can come into play that rotate those players back in. I mean, from a design perspective, it's clearly a way to rotate something out temporarily.
Yeah, so that's probably an election thing.
Yes, which is cool. I mean, that's cool. The biggest problem I have with Baseball right now is that the teams that are the most popular can just kind of control the elections. So like the reason that the Crabs did so well is they had a lot of votes.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to me, the idea of of over seasons, fan bases working together to improve their teams, but you can't even do that. Like as a Garages fan, we don't have enough votes to win anything. So we just sort of stagnate because there's nothing we can do. I mean, like I put in 100 votes today or yesterday, and because and even that probably won't matter tomorrow. So it's cool that they're doing some stuff that kind of shakes things up through other systems than just the voting.
Yeah. The one thing that is keeping me really, really engaged with BlazeBall, because I've largely kind of bounced off of it personally, but the one thing that's been keeping me engaged is that my dad is suddenly like obsessed with BlazeBall, and it is kind of amazing. Like, I'll go over, he'll pick me up to come over and have dinner at their house, and like the car ride talk will be BlazeBall. Like he's like gotten full throttle into BlazeBall, and it's been very kind of amusing to watch. And then also he's following his kind of experience has been good too, because also his team that he chose purely based off of the name is the Unlimited Tacos, and they are consistently very, very bad. And so
Unlimited Tacos.
Hearing their fandom has been very fun, because last season apparently they were actively going for getting 72 losses, and that was like their goal. And
I want
more
a season
surpassed that.
I want a vote for a season where the playoffs are the worst teams.
Oh
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the team who loses the most wins.
Yes.
Hey, that would give my dad an option. He does not use Twitter, but he really wants to make the hashtag tacos turn a thing. So,
just
I don't know why, but
you got to tweet about it, Alice. You say my dad doesn't. You have to say what you just said and tweet it, and you'll go viral.
Just imagine a postseason with like the Mild Wings, the Magic, the Hawaii Fridays, and I guess the Moist Talkers, although that's a pretty competitive division. Moist Talkers are pretty good. Versus the Tacos, the Dale, the Spies, and like the Sunbeams.
That would be great. I would love it.
So good.
But yeah, that's like the one thing that's keeping me actually checking BlazeBall is my dad being like, oh, so I too bad about the Jazz hands. And I'm like, oh, I did not check today. But he'll just like check in on like, saw one of your players got incinerated, pity. I'm like, okay.
So I have not been keeping up with BlazeBall. Like I see like the shell stuff and whatever, but then I was taken aback when I saw that the Wild Wings have been demoted down to the Mild Wings, and this is just some bullshit. And I cannot let it stand.
If anyone wants details on like how on the fiction surrounding the Mild Wings, friend of the show Jeff Davis is a Mild Wings fan and has contributed to their wiki, from what I understand. So they are the person to talk to if you have an interest in Wild Wings lore.
I need to know what happened. How did it change? This is not good. And also, so this is the peanuts, the shells, the peanuts.
I have
think back
981
back
I have
to February.
What do they do?
Think back to February when we said goodbye to a national treasure. Mr. Peanut passed away.
Oh, right.
And was replaced with baby Mr. Peanut.
Baby Nut.
Say it. Baby Nut.
Say the name.
Say Baby Nut was brought into this world. Mr. Peanut died so Baby Nut could live.
Yes.
What if
he has risen?
What if the Planters Peanut people came to the game band and went, listen, we need a viral marketing for Baby Nut.
Oh, no.
And that's what this is. This is all viral marketing for Baby Nut.
Oh, I want the game band to be successful, but the day that Planters sponsors BlazeBall, I think I might be out. No offense good for them, but I don't want it it's cool to see small internet businesses sponsor BlazeBall, but I don't know. The minute that it's Snickers,
the whole thing is sponsored by Planters. It's just silent. And then at the end,
I would be pissed because I've been giving them Patreon money.
Okay, so
Baby Nut is gonna erupt.
There's only one corporately mandated icon that could show up that I would feel okay about, and that would be Gritty. The Flyers mascot showing up.
Maybe.
I think that would be pretty rad.
I love Gritty very, very much so. So I would be very excited.
I think I wouldn't have a problem if it was
line.
If it was a company within like games or baseball that got involved, I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it. Like if
it was baseball, I'd be like, no, you get out of here. What are you doing?
If it was like, but if it was like Planters, that would be no thanks.
What if it was just Ice Cube?
Like the rapper?
The rapper.
Well, he's been tweeting anti-Semitic conspiracy theories for the past several months. So
oh no,
yeah.
I haven't seen this. Oh God. Okay.
Yeah. But that's
all right. Yeah. So not Ice Cube.
I hate to see it.
Now, if it were Ice-T, yes. Ice-T is awesome.
Law and Order.
Snoop Dogg's Blaseball.
Oh, that
now there's
sense.
a
that would just be Blazeball.
Oh, they would have to change it, but they would do that. That would be a good one.
Yeah.
Is if Snoop Dogg sponsored a season of Blaseball and they called it Blazeball for a season, I would be fucking into that.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for our very meaty news section this week.
The Brendan Fraser kind of news section.
Yeah, very thick. And that's going to do it for this podcast, this one, episode 138 of the Gaming Fix podcast on September 12th, 2020. I've been your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite lyric from What's Your Fantasy by Ludacris and Shauna. What's Your Fantasy featuring Shauna by Ludacris. Excuse me. Let me get it right. And you can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W. Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays, and I would still like to stream things soon, but because of the hell world and various mental health and physical health, and
it does kind of look like a Doom level out there.
Especially right now, I'm looking out the window and it is very orange outside now here.
It is here too.
9:30 a.m. and it is a very orange tinted sky, which I assume is going to be for the rest of the day. So I would say to the things that are happening on the west coast of the U.S. as well as in other parts of the world, but in our roulette of horrible shit happening, the fires here are really, really bad, and there are direct results of climate change, and so
inaction on the part of many people.
A lot of people are going to tell you,
and action on the part of other people.
A lot of people's response to that is like, so make sure you're registered to vote, which is very important, and you should do that. But also learn about climate change, learn about how it's not just policy, it's also individual choices, and it's also corporations, and it's a whole thing. You should, and I think if you look at this and say that you care about it, you have a responsibility to actually do the reading and learn about it and find out how you can help beyond just voting for somebody who has better but not sufficient enough.
Who has policy. D next to their name.
Yes, exactly. Which you should still probably do, but there's more to do than just that.
Allison, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
Great. And Alex?
You can find me expeditiously expeditioning through Monsters Expedition through Puzzling Exhibitions.
Hey, I'm going to do that today too.
How much dabbing is in that game?
The monster will occasionally wave at you, and it can look like dabbing from certain angles.
You know what
any
sucks?
Cucumbers?
I don't think so. If there were, I think he would probably eat them and offer advice.
Yes. Okay. It sucks that there's no dab emote that I've seen so far in Avengers. Kamala should dab.
Probably.
She 100%
that would be the only one I would accept is Kamala.
Also, Tony should dab. Let's be honest.
Oh God, yeah, maybe.
He says all I do is win at times.
Yeah. But you know what you know what that means. What he doesn't do.
Oh, I know. We've been through this. We've been over this. Just when you're done looking up information about climate change, search All I do is
what does search what does DJ Khaled not do?
Oh, of course.
There you go.
I forgot
there
it was
you
DJ
go.
Khaled.
Bye, everyone.
Stay wet, gamers.
Still?
Indeed.
Always.
Stay Brendan.
Especially now with these fires on the West Coast.
I was going to say,
wet.
Get wet, gamers, and come to the West Coast. Spread your wetness around the environment.
Smash players are already doing their part.
Oh, God.
Abstaining from showers.
I thought you were going to talk about something else. Never mind.
Okay. Bye.
Goodbye,
everybody.
Bye.
Okay. Goodbye, stream. It was nice seeing you. Have a lovely day or evening, wherever you happen to be.